Yeah, man.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. How is this? I've put a blanket over me. Does that make the recording sound any better?
I'm trying to imagine you like how like kids hide under their blankets and then read books in like old movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm imagining right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh my
I was
lord.
just,
How does it sound any better?
I
Wait,
mean,
keep speaking.
The fitness gram pacer test is a multi-stage aerobics.
It sounds alright. It sounds like you're under something for sure. It sounds like
Oh,
the sound. It sounds like the sound's more isolated, which therefore there's less of an echo. So that's a
okay.
good thing.
are we starting? Are we officially recording?
Oh
He's
yeah, I mean
probably already
yeah.
started
I've
recording like
already
5 minutes
started.
ago.
I already started like a minute ago.
Oh,
So you knew
okay.
it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the standard. It just kind of happens, you know.
That's crazy.
Well, guys. What we got to talk about here?
I can't get this blanket on. Never mind.
You have no childhood wonder, dude. What's wrong with you?
What do you mean? No, it's getting too hot and sweaty under that blanket, and I've had to just sprint.
Hey, I mean,
up
what's
a
wrong
hill.
with hot and sunny? Hot and sunny, hot and sweaty. What's wrong with that?
I can't be hot and sweaty for like 2.5 hours.
Okay, then you can't last in bed. Then
Oh,
I'll note that. I'll note that.
jeez.
The 14-year-old is throwing strays at me about how long I can last in bed.
Oh, I could
No
last
frame of
longer.
reference,
Trust.
buddy. No frame of reference,
When
buddy.
you know frame of reference, I've done shit, man.
Oh. Well,
What?
if he's
What?
if he's bragging, then
I mean,
go on.
what's not to brag about, you know?
I mean, literally everything.
What do you mean,
You're
literally
14.
everything? And do you remember what we talked about last episode, bro?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, exactly.
We can talk about that.
Why is it that you keep on starting all these conversations, Xander?
Well, because
says a lot about you.
like okay, yeah. As a teenager, I should be experiencing hormone changes. You're a grown adult man. But
Yeah,
you
I'm already
participate-
finished growing.
You
I've already finished
participate in
growing.
it. You participate in it.
Well,
That says
I
more
can't
about you
just
than
be
it does me.
I can't be silent during these. Well, who am I? Is a movie dude?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's wild.
That's why I'm keeping that in.
What's everyone doing for Halloween? Let's talk about that.
Okay.
We're watching Kier soon for Halloween. That's my plan. Just kind of like watching that.
You said
like,
Kier,
late
by
night.
the way. It's Cure.
Kier.
1997.
Kier.
Kiyoshi. It's by Kiyoshi Kurosawa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it. I've seen Pulse and Chime by that director, and I really like both.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm gonna go to this this Halloween thing at my school, and I'm also gonna dress up as Clifford the Big Red Dog.
That's wild.
But Clifford's not scary.
It's not all
That's not
costumes
the
are meant
point.
to be
That's not the
scary, bro.
point.
That is
Yeah.
the whole point of Halloween is supposed to be scary, but yet everyone just like dresses up as whatever the fuck.
Well,
You
yeah.
know,
like,
it's
what's-
like it's not really like all Halloween is when it comes to like just being scary. It's about like
and then,
just
my
childhood-
girlfriend's doing like the girl who owns the dog. So yeah,
Oh, Stephanie.
yes, definitely.
It's not really in season, is it?
What?
What do you mean not in season?
You
Wait,
know
what's the
you know what you're doing? You're putting Halloween into a box. You're making it
I'm-
rigid. You're making it rigid.
not.
You're
I'm
like
just
you're like
making a-
Christian Puritans, you know? You're just keeping everything rigid to like a pure definition
I'm-
of Halloween, man. There's no
I'm
pure
not, I'm just-
definition.
I'm throwing out a general question. That Halloween is meant to be like the scariest night of the year. It's where you dress up as something scary to get the sweets.
Yeah.
But what's the difference between a Halloween party now and just a regular costume, a fancy dress party where everyone dresses up in costumes? What's the difference between a Halloween party?
Well, not many people
It's
even
not
do
gonna be
that often. Halloween, it's like everyone can do it. It's like they have an excuse to.
But like,
Yeah.
like Jesus isn't scary. And 2 Halloweens ago, I saw 5 people dressed as Jesus.
Well, okay,
Well,
Jesus is
that's
scared to
very
atheists. What about that? Checkmate, liberal. Oh my lord.
Well,
That's wild.
if you
That's so
squint at it, I guess.
What if you're a monk?
No,
You'll
no.
be scared by Jesus. It's like, no, there's more than one God, or some shit. You know? Oh, wait, no, that's a Buddhist, but yeah.
So you're dressing up as Clifford. What are you
Yeah.
doing? Israel, you dressing up?
No, I'm not. I don't dress up anymore. I've not dressed up in years.
Wow,
Fair enough.
you're just. That's fair enough, actually. I was gonna say you're a loser, but you know it's okay.
It's like the issue. The thing is that like because like there's no one on my street trick or treats when it comes to like.
Yeah, because you live in the fucking mountains, dude.
Hey, that's not the only reason. It's just more like the fact like the street in general is like older.
If anyone goes
like,
trick or treating, there's a fire that's gonna start somehow. Like that's what's gonna happen.
Shut up!
California is literally burning every other day. I don't know how you're not used to it, bro.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Do I have to mention how one of the fires started with a fucking gender reveal party?
Yeah, that was California in general, not fucking where I lived in the mountains.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I know where you live. Right. But
Yeah,
yeah.
you're just gonna link that in this episode.
Yeah, I remember it had like. Actually, I'm not gonna say
don't
that. Not even like a single detail of it, because I feel like you'll get like doxxed. I'm sorry.
Don't actually.
I know it has a movie title in it, a certain one by a certain director. I'm being very vague with this.
Oh, I already know it.
Well, what is it
What?
then?
I'm not doing it. I'm not saying it.
Okay.
It's a
Say
doxing.
in my DMs. Say in my DMs, hey critic.
Alright.
Okay.
Hold on.
But anyway, as I was saying, like, I forgot, like, what if I send you a candy through the mail? Hear me out.
That's not even close. Shut the fuck.
Oh.
That's not even
hold on.
close.
Hold
That's
on,
not
hold
even close. That's not.
Yeah,
No, you're just retarded, bro. You might
Chat, what are these guesses? We're not gonna show them, but like, chat, come on. Really? That is the most lazy thing I've ever seen, bro. Oh my god.
Okay, that
It's
was
not even
like, clever.
close. It's not even close, bro. Cause they're. Oh my god, bro.
It's stupid. What are you talking?
What is he yapping about, bro? What?
So for Halloween,
What are you doing?
I'm dressing up again as Ash Williams like I did last year.
That's
Oh,
fine.
that's
Fit in,
sick.
bro.
One of my in real life friends dressed up as Ash Williams actually last year. During like senior year, crazy ass shit.
I think it's cool, but it's just stuck in the mountains, so we can't really do anything. Too bad.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll send you like
Well-
your favorite like Swedish fish in the mail, candy corn. What
Why
else?
candy corn?
Because I just
Candy
want to
corn-
be evil today.
You're
Look-
the one who's wasting money on me. That's the thing.
Okay, that's true. You're like my fucking hoe. I don't want that. Cause I already sent you that fucking Unbreakable 4K. That costs a lot of money.
It was like $14. It's not that expensive in the grand scheme of it's like
$14 is $14.
true, but like
$14
You know,
is $14.
yeah, you can stop it, Craig. None of these are even close.
Bro thinks he's him. Like you're not. Like you're not fucking Sherlock Holmes with these clues, bro.
Yeah, you're not. All I'm saying is it's not 1, 2, 3 Mushroom Street. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
So it is 1, 2, 3 Mushroom Street.
Sure, let's go with that.
You got me.
I got a host film club on that night, and we were doing a spooky movie.
What's
What
that?
movie?
Well, we've thrown a poll out to the people so they can choose, and on the poll, hold on a second, I'll pull it up now. On the poll, me and my 2 other committee members have selected 6 films, and people have got to vote from out of the 6. So I've got them here. Of the 6 films we have, we got Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
Oh, that would be
We've,
boring.
we've got Rocky Horror Picture Show.
That'd be
Oh, that
fun.
would be fun.
We've got Possession. My
That would not be
ex-favorite
fun
film.
for anyone, but also go for it.
We've got Evil Dead 2.
That'd be fun.
Okay, awesome.
We got What We Do in the Shadows, the movie, not the TV show.
I hate Taika
Oh.
Waititi, but that'll probably
Okay.
go alright.
And we got The Witch.
Okay.
That's a
Most
crazy choice.
Most of those are pretty solid choices, honestly.
Yeah, but do you know what's winning the poll right now?
What?
Probably like fucking Evil Dead 2, I imagine. Or what?
No, it's Rocky Horror. Rocky
Okay,
Horror
yeah,
is
that's my
clearly
second guess.
smashing the vote.
Yeah, that was my second guess. Maybe how many of them have seen Evil Dead 1? Maybe that's why they didn't pick Evil Dead 2.
Well, Evil Dead 2 has only gotten 1 vote. Rocky Horror has 10 votes. Possession has 2. The Witch has 2. And What We Do in the Shadows has 1. Nobody voted for The Birds.
Of course.
Well,
Who wants
Like,
to,
that's
bro?
what-
Like that movie's good, but like, who wants to watch The Birds on Halloween night, bro?
Yeah, that wasn't my pick, alright? My picks were The Witch and Evil Dead 2. I didn't pick the other ones.
So obviously, the 2 freaks who chose Possession, they're not gonna get it. That's just
Yeah.
sad. That's just sad, bro. Like,
Yeah, that's just.
there's no way you would just. Even if they did choose it, that would be such a weird day, because that movie is like screaming and yelling and realistic divorce. but also very surreal at the same time. And it's like, oh, that's what we're watching Halloween night? That seems weird.
I'm aware of the contents of the film. My ex had loads of things about it. She was obsessed. She had stickers of a possession that she bought on Etsy that she had on the back of her laptop.
That's crazy. That's crazy, actually. You know, all I'm saying is, you know, hit me.
It's real. You got no game, bro. Like, despite calling you Rizreal, you didn't even like make your chance, bro. You could have watched Showgirls 2 with her, but you didn't.
I don't know, like, you know, how to, like, actually, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what am I supposed to do?
Get Shadow.
With Andrea.
Get Shadow to, like, dox her, you know? Just find her socials.
No. I don't think that'd be very Sigma. That's the thing.
I think that would not be creepy at all, you know? Not creepy at all.
I think you're just kind of something, all right. Like,
yeah. Who's the one with the girlfriend here, though?
Well,
yeah.
You know,
shut
how
up.
How long are you gonna have her for?
Hey, man. First one, I am already like 5 months in, bro.
That's longer than all my relationships.
Oh, wait, that's sad. Never mind. I don't even.
Yeah.
There's not even a joke there. That's just sad. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's okay, Craig. It's okay, Craig. I'll have a drink with you.
Anyway,
Well,
speaking of sex, let's talk about the movies.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, Yippee. Okay.
We gotta fit in the sex movies just before No Nut November.
Yep.
Keep in good time.
So yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
So
welcome to the dumps. We're back, and it's crazy. It's like there's not even that large of a gap between episodes. Isn't that shocking? Fuck.
I've whipped this boy into shape, so we have consistent episodes. I've whipped him.
I'm not black.
I never said you were.
Wow.
That says more about your mind space than mine.
Well, okay. Anyway, as I was saying, we're back, and we have Isra here without the shitty mic.
I'm sorry about what happened last time for the record. I don't know what happened, Pelagras. Oops.
Yeah, but he's back for his second appearance, and he's ready to talk about
third appearance.
Let's talk about three movies. And well, of course, Crick, you know, he's the co-host. He's here.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna be here.
Oh, I hate you. You know I hate you so much. You know that. You're an evil person. I don't want to speak to you anymore. Anyway, okay. So we're here to talk about Showgirls. We're here to talk about fucking the Babadook, and we're here to talk about The Substance. Now,
the funny things, like, technically speaking, there's like a fucking like parallel between like two of these each, but then like there's no like overall like theme between all three of them.
The thing that's also complicating this is I teased the episode before in the last episode, and it did not include The Substance because that was not the original plan. But after watching The Substance, it turns out all three of us have negative thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I was not expecting that, but we'll get to that way later, okay? Yeah. Okay, fellas?
And so we're going to start in release order. We're going to start with Showgirls. Now, Showgirls, directed by Paul Verhoeven, director of Total Recall, RoboCop, and also Basic Instinct. He's back. This was kind of his last big project for a while. This was a major fucking flop. It got nominated for a ton of Razzies, and it was considered one of the worst movies of its year. And I don't get it. I don't get it
either.
Yeah.
I would like to step in a little bit, because when it comes to preparation for this episode, I did a lot of research into it. You know, I bought the Vinegar Syndrome 4K. I watched all those special features. I, did some extra research online. I made sure to watch the sequel that exists for the record. I watched it right before this recording, and I know too much now. I know too much now.
Geek. Fucking nerd. Anyway.
Fuck you. You don't need this level of research. You don't go out your way to buy the Showgirls 4K.
Bitch, have you seen the Vlorax script, bro? Like, shut up. Like, let me quiet. Oh my lord, bro. We don't know.
Stop doing fucking fake addresses. It's not gonna work.
Why is okay? We can stop this. We're outside of the opening, bro. Anyway, you're now the self-proclaimed Showgirls expert now, and so
Yeah.
really you should explain the plot.
Okay, so so it's pretty much about this girl named Nomi. She has no real connections and wants to become a dancer, you know. So she
Yep.
goes to Las Vegas, you know, in order to
Yeah, we're not in California,
achieve
buddy.
that dream.
Fuck.
Yeah. So she stumbles upon this other girl who after like just like gambling all her money away, she stumbles upon this other girl and they hit it off, you know, and she has some connections to like this one person who does has openings for like exotic dances along those lines, you know, and like the film kind of spirals from there. What comes to like this underworld she's slowly finding herself in. And as you said earlier, Xander, it didn't do very well. And honestly, the thing that's funny is that like they kind of knew it wasn't inherently gonna do well.
Yeah.
Because it was NC-17 is the thing, and like they want it to be NC-17. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like they. Yeah, because they knew that like the story wanted to be very provocative and stuff, and like even though they didn't have to like do all of that, it was a case where like they wanted to not be censored anyway. And like the thing is like specifically in their contract as well, in order to make sure it's NC-17. It's just like the issue with NC-17 and like why it was like a bad move technically was because when you're NC-17, obviously you have like more limited theater showings. You can't run your ads in like newspapers or anything. It's like just like when it comes to like advertising side of things, it's just like out the window.
Yeah.
So
what I find particularly odd about that is throughout the movie I was watching it, I was like, I don't know how this is NC-17 really, because even as extreme as the movie goes, it feels like it has a distance and it cuts away from it still. It feels like a movie that is still approaching this from a very much like a populist perspective, because his previous movies did very fucking well. Basic Instinct made like 300 million. I know RoboCop did very well, and Total Recall did well, and especially they did well in VHS sales. Because I know from here like Showgirls didn't do well, and so did Starship Troopers. That didn't do well, but it did better as a cult following thing. So.
I'll show you Showgirls later on.
Yeah. So, not bad. But like, there's always been like this appeal, because even though Verhoeven, he covers a lot of very controversial topics, he's able to make it very appealing to a general audience, and that's what I find fascinating about his work, because I don't know how he does it, but he's very, very good at it in terms of that aspect. But at the same time, it kind of breaks the leg of this movie. It kind of like cripples it, because it doesn't push it far enough to the point where I think it should deserve that sort of rating. For me personally, I
agree, because like I feel like it's just in general, because like back then they were more prudes than they are now in some regards, because RoboCop almost got an NC-17 rating because of its violence,
Yeah.
And obviously, and I don't think, even though that movie's like pretty violent, I don't think it like deserved that. Evil Dead got an NC-17 rating back in the day. It's the weird thing. I don't know how that.
It might have been the tree rape scene. Just a thought.
Okay, that is a good point when it comes to like that specific like section of that film. But like in general, like I feel like even though like it was still hard to get an NC-17 rating, it was still the case where like it's a lot lighter. It was a lot lighter back then, because like what got it. I feel in the grand scheme of things, that's my.
I don't know. Showgirls is pretty graphic. You get full on frontal nudity. You get a really bizarre sex scene. I mean, like you get the works in Showgirls.
Well, I don't know. Audiences. With that bizarre sex scene, it feels like, okay, this is like for R, not for like NC-17. This doesn't feel like it's graphic enough to be like taken that seriously, and that like kids should never be allowed to see it, and you have to be 17. Because like I don't like the idea of like how sex and like nudity is treated in fucking film, because a lot of it is rooted in a lot of like Puritan and like Christian ideology, really, if you really like dive into it. Literally, the Hays Code was made by a priest, I'm pretty sure. So there's that.
Yeah.
And so there's always just been like connotation that like sex and like sex positivity is just like something that isn't often in a lot of films, and That's what makes people like Hitchcock, for example, like so interesting because he's sort of like riding the line between perversive and also just like straight up like serious art. Because for as much as Hitchcock is praised as this like genius guy, he was also very much like a reactionary, very like in ways like a fanciful exploitive director in a way, because something like Psycho was a fucking huge thing back then. It was meant to be for fucking Alfred Hitchcock Presents, that TV show that he did for a long time, and fucking the TV crew was working on Psycho when they were doing it, and it's like when you look at that movie, it was pretty like novel to have both a toilet flushing in that movie. That's not been in.
Yeah.
That was like a really like
Wait,
uncommon
what?
thing. Like toilets were not allowed in movies back then. It was kind of
Huh.
crazy,
Yeah, it
and
wasn't the first one, ever in a film, but like it
yeah,
was like one of the
it was one
first,
of the
because like
first.
that idea.
And the sexually implicit stuff and the whole gender bend stuff was very fucking new. That's why they had the whole explanation near the end. But
Yeah,
that movie's still
which
brilliant still, despite that.
yeah,
It somehow manages to have a lot of mystery around it despite such a expository like ending, because
yeah,
because if you actually like pay attention, what that guy's explaining doesn't really line up with what the film really shows, and you start to realize like this diagnosis is kind of false, and that's kind of what makes it so scary, because Norman is a character who you can sympathize with, but you can't fully understand, and that's what makes that
Hmm.
ending so haunting. And to get back to the point, it's like, oh, we treat this stuff like it should never be discussed, which is what makes a lot of like modern mainstream films feel like they just never want to have this sort of equal gender dynamic. It always has to be like a part of this sort of
gender war,
insistence,
like
yeah, gender war like topics,
Hmm.
when it should really just be about like how you can make those distinctions, like you just trust the audience with it, because it feels like we can't trust our audience to like just have a discussion on the shit, which is why there's been this like growing crowd of people who are into like these like sexually explicit like grindhouse stuff. It feels like Letterboxd really produced that, a lot of those people, and
definitely, absolutely.
that sort
For
of,
better or for worse.
and there's a deep seated history in horror as well, where there's a lot of queer representation in a lot of works. It goes back
Hmm.
down to like the fucking Universal monster movies, if we're really like diving into it, because surprisingly, fucking Frankenstein is kind of a queer work if you look behind the context of the author and stuff. But yeah, like that sort of stuff is kind of like what is rooted in horror, because horror is about like, oh, stuff that we shouldn't talk about, and that's why it's the perfect place to talk about like all this weird shit. And it's the same way it feels like Verhoeven is trying to make that appealing in Showgirls, and tries to make it both not exploitive but at the same time very entertaining. And does it fully work? I mean, you can argue yes or no. And for me personally, I think it works sometimes. Uh, I've been going on this whole thing. I don't know what your guys' thoughts on this.
Let me go first when it comes to Showgirl. Is that like it's a film, and like throughout like the past week thinking about it, I'm very conflicted on. On one hand, I do respect a lot of it, what it's going for. I do understand its ambitions. It's just I feel like it's been muddy in places. It's my biggest issue with the film.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, because for a lot of it, it's going for like this very sort of campy tone with a lot of things.
yeah.
And like I get what it's going for. I feel like it works a lot of the time, but like whenever it does like do more like serious drama stuff, it feels like it's not quite mixed in there well enough
Hmm.
in order to like
Yeah.
make it not super jarring and like kind of like out of nowhere in some ways. Like
Hmm.
that's my
Yep.
biggest like with the film when it comes to that,
Uh,
and
yeah.
like that's my
If,
opening statement. Greg, how do you feel?
yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, it's just like by the end of the film, I was like, whoa, like what was that? That was that really a film? That was more of an experience or something. Like I'm just sort of like sat here, just like watching it. And I'm like, it keeps going and going and going, and like it's
Yeah,
going
that's
through all these like weird things, and then it just ends
yeah,
the way it does, and I'm like,
I like the
oh,
ending. I do like the ending.
that was. I expected something else, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still just sort of like mulling over it a little bit because
Me too, because I literally just watched it.
Yeah.
it's very full on.
It's very full on.
It's
It's not. It doesn't hold back much. Is the thing.
Yeah.
I feel
I
like.
oh it definitely doesn't. It definitely falls into like the argument where it's demonizing something while playing into it.
Uh,
So
Well, yeah. That's a bit
for me,
conflicting because I feel like throughout this and like Substance, we're gonna talk about like male and female gaze in terms of like the director, and it's like yeah, this is a movie about like women and about how their bodies are used, and it's directed by a man. And with Paul Verhoeven, it's kind of a weird thing to talk about because his best movies are male gaze. They're very male gaze, and it works because he's male. You can understand
yeah.
like he knows exactly how to shoot it. But once he starts diving more into like what Basic Instinct, I feel like I kind of weakened a bit more on that movie. But the thing about that movie is kind of the main conceit of it is kind of how fucking feral men can be when offered sexual power, and how females can like use that to their advantage. Because by the end of the movie, the main mystery is kind of who killed this person, and was it this girl or this girl, and that's not really the point. The movie kind of ends off with this weird thing where you can also look at its ending as an alternative, like a dream sequence, or you can also look at it as, well, actually both of them were doing this and this is what happened, and it's like it kind of adds an air of mystery, is like what did what. But I feel like the details of that don't really matter. You can look in more into it. It kind of doesn't make sense in parts, but it's kind of the idea that no matter what, these men were taken advantage of, and it's kind of like the inverse, where it's like a 90s response to a lot of like our male heroes, to because Michael Douglas, he is a character in that movie where as you go on, you realize how much of a monster he kind of is, and how kind of just like toxic he is, because he's basically feeding off of this like this sexual vices. And early on he's pretty sober, and then slowly as he goes on, he's like, okay, I'm gonna take a drink, and then he starts smoking again, and it kind of dives into that whole thing of basically the inverse. We're making our men weak throughout the movie, even though like he's meant to be like this like smart detective, but you realize how little power he has as he goes on, and it's like when you're dealing with that, like at least you still have something male to like go off on. But this is fully diving into like the female perspective on how their bodies are used, and I think it kind of works sometimes. I really
if it
liked.
came out, if it came out today and it was still directed by Paul Verhoeven, there'd be shit
Oh
flung
yeah,
at him saying, "Oh, why is he making a movie from the female perspective when he's not a female director?" No,
yeah,
no, 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 no,
Yeah,
no.
absolutely. But
for sure.
like that would happen sometimes.
And it
And
feels
like one
like
thing I would bring up.
I will say
Go on.
Verhoeven, the way he shoots everything, for as much as he kind of thrusts himself into this like very wild, campy side of like this sexual stuff, it feels like he has a lot of sympathy for women in this movie. I feel like he
He
still has
does.
a sympathetic eye to them, and he doesn't treat them like objects ever in the movie.
Yeah, he does it because like I looked into it, once again like with those special features and like double checking, he interviewed like 200 actual like strip dancers and like prostitutes and stuff like that, in order
Hmm.
to like get their own stories when it comes to like how what their experiences were like, Which
Yeah.
I do think because like even though like this film obviously does like show off women's body in like that way, it still does have that eye of sympathy always still in order to like
Yeah, yeah.
understand like how they got this way,
I feel like when I look
and
at a
that
lot
I
of
really like
the
that.
sexual scenes in this movie, it feels like it's a it's way more open lens. It's not these intimate shots of their butts and their boobs all the time. It feels like it's a
Hmm.
very wide shot, and it feels like you get the idea of like who is in control and who's not in control, and this idea of like what's performative and like how uncomfortable this is and how it isn't. Because at the same time, you can look at it as like they feel better about, because her dream is to dance, but at the same time she's good
Yeah,
at like at like taking control of the men using her dancing, and it's like, is that we're kind of like viewing it as like this is good for her, but at the same time, it's like it feels like
So what she really wants.
this isn't what she really wants, and that they're basically stripping her of like who she is in order to get to it. Because like early on, first time she has like a private dance or a private like encounter with Kyle MacLachlan's character, he
I was surprised to use it this film.
yeah, me too.
I didn't
I was
expect to see him
shocked.
there.
Yeah.
I was too. I was just like, wait, is that who I think it is? And I checked. I was, oh my god.
It's fucking crazy. But like early on with that and how he's sort of he doesn't really want to do it, but it's really the girl who convinces her. I forget her name. But she offers $500.
Her name, that was yeah, it was Crystal. It was Gina Gershon's character.
Crystal. Yeah, with Crystal, it's like she has to offer like $500 to convince her to do it, and she feels uncomfortable after that. And another thing about the movie is what it shows is also behind the curtain, and how kind of there's this just sort of like, okay, this is just another shift. We got to do this. We got to do this and that. And the whole thing was like, all right, if you want to get this job, you got to give me a blowjob after a week. It's like, okay, there's that.
Yeah.
And it feels so casual, and that's what I kind of appreciate about it, because it doesn't treat it like it's this shocking thing, which is interesting because it's like
It's a clash that I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I feel like the movie is trying to offer this perspective on like both trying to normalize these sexual situations and to also humanize them as well. And I feel like early on they do it really well, honestly. And I really do appreciate a lot of aspects early on. I think the movie really does kind of fall apart in that last third, but like 2/3 of it, I'm actually kind of good with, honestly, because
I'm totally fine with them too.
It's like the best like thing, best like best about this certain topic. I don't think it can be, but I think it's a great and interesting attempt at it. But it just starts to feel like it kind of repeats itself.
Yeah, that's one thing I was gonna point out, is that, like, for me at least, like when it comes to the structure itself, it feels like it sort of, meanders a little bit in some parts, mainly with like fucking what's his name? I need to remember his name, because like with that one character.
Which character?
Glenn Plumber's character, James.
James, yeah.
And like,
no, Zach. That was his name.
No, we're talking about Glenn Plummer. We're not talking about Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah.
Oh, James. Yeah, James Smith.
Yeah, James Smith. That character, like, his whole deal is the fact that, like, he's trying to get together with Nomi, sort of, and, like, not really because, like, her actual character, but because of, like, her looks in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
And, like, for me, at least, like, it was, like, okay, I guess, but, like, I feel like they meandered a bit too much in that, and
they didn't really dive into that aspect, because it feels like he started to change, and we start to learn more about him by the time we get to his like final scene, kind of where he's starting to perform that thing with fucking what's her name? Rena Raffles' character Penny. Like that whole thing feels like so her real name's Hope, but Penny. So they're doing that whole dance, and it's not sexual, but no one wants to see that. And so
no, they don't want to fuck a Penny. They want to fuck a Hope.
Yeah, and they don't want to see her dancing with like clothes on. Like they need the no clothes on. They want the real dancers. They kind of beg for it, and they boo them off stage. And that final scene where it's like, what are you gonna do? And it's like, well, I'm gonna get married. And it's like, why? Because she's pregnant. And it's just really just kind of a sad scene, because it's just kind of like he's so casual about it, but it's clearly painful for him, because now he's gonna have to work with the grocery store which her mom owns. And he's just kind of like, yeah, this is my life now. And he just kind of gives up on his ambitions, like, right then and there. And I feel like there could have been more to that. And I feel like there could have expanded on his character, because he feels like he just kind of infrequently just, like, kind of pops up in the story.
Yeah, that's why whenever, like, whenever some of the few scenes that he does appear in, it's sort of meanders sometimes, but like also doesn't, is the weird thing. It's a really weird like pacing thing with that I can't quite describe, and like And like I kind of wish we either got a bit more or like maybe it's like changed a bit in order to like work better. It's just really awkward. I feel with this character especially, and like same with like fucking when it comes to Zach. I kind of wish we got a bit more of him too. Is the thing. Like I don't feel like he appears nearly enough in the film for his presence to really be too felt.
Yeah, it feels like
I don't know. I feel like he takes a bit more of a center stage in the second half.
it feels like we're starting to like get like more of that sinister side of him, but right before then, that's when she leaves. So it's like, all right, I guess that's enough from him. It's funny, like that whole sex scene. In retrospect, feels like I don't think we need all of that. By the time we get to that end, because I feel like, are we gonna get somewhere with this? But no, he just kind of wanted to do the sex scene, so that's kind of an oddly placed scene for me. Like as much as I like that scene for how funny it is, I think it's really out of place. And I feel like that and the doggy chow line are the only reasons this movie is made fun of, because the rest of it is actually just like decent, like campy stuff. So I never really.
And that wasn't intention. That was intention because like Paul Verhoeven himself, like with like what he talked about, like what was what he was going for. He's like he was trying to like make it like an exaggerated reality of LA, of Las Vegas. What comes like the way it like played up. Because like Las Vegas is already like this such a grand and like bizarre place. So like he's tried playing that into that even more with that campy nature of it all.
Yeah,
which I think works really well.
That might have also been another reason why this movie didn't really work for audiences, because RoboCop, there's a distinct sort of sci-fi futuristic vibe. There's a distinct thing with Total Recall because a lot of it takes place on fucking Mars, so it's sci-fi, and you can sort of like let go of the goofy stuff. With Showgirls, we're having this. I always talk about this, but it feels like people just are less willing to accept a sort of half like surreal, half like realistic reality, because it's way more easier to have these clear distinctions. Like, this is a goofy comedy. This is a goofy sci-fi movie. This is a serious movie. This is a serious sci-fi movie. Like, it always has to be like this rigid definition, which is what makes just like some modern stuff feel weird. Because we're so obsessed with like genre pieces at this point. I feel like it was Tarantino that kind of popularized it, and I feel like we need to like branch off more into just like having these sort of weird movies. Because people aren't like, they're just not as, they don't gel with that shit, and I don't know, because obviously it's kind of a hard thing to balance, but if you really get it right with this weird tone, this movie does work with its tone for a good majority of it, until it starts dragging and kind of wasting time. I don't know, but it's solid for a good chunk of it, so I don't know how this was like called like a stupid, like unbelievably horrible movie, because it's.
I think part of it is just maybe were prude, and like I feel like as well, like the film kind of hits hard and heavy right off the gates, with Nomi, which was pointed out in like the behind the scenes, like fucking interviews and stuff. What comes back to like what comes to the writer is that like what he was going for a bit was to make her like sort of like heavy to the audience, just as heavy as she is to like other characters at first, but like you slowly like kind of warm up to her. What comes to the way her mannerisms are,
early on she's very like aggressive to everyone. Like when she first gets in that, when she first starts first scene with that with her hitchhiking, and then meeting this like Elvis lookalike. He looks like Elvis.
Yeah, I think that's the implication that he was going to go be an Elvis impersonator.
I feel like it's like the symbolism. It's like, oh, he has just the same like fantastical dreams as her, but he's just going to end up just like Elvis, who, guess what, died on the toilet.
Yeah.
So that might be
also
he shows
up at the very end.
Yeah, it's like it all loops back. It's fun.
I like how loop back. I really like the loop back in the ending. What comes like her like giving up everything like that, which we'll get back into a little bit later as well. But like that's cool.
You're saying that Nomi's very aggressive early front at the start of the film. She never drops that through the rest of the film. Whenever she's like pressed at something, she immediately goes defensive and aggressive.
Yeah.
She's pressed like what she's like. What do you mean by that?
But it feels like as the movie goes on, since we learn more about how she's sort of under the pressure of everything else, you start to sympathize with her aggression, And
then
not saying that she's
comes
like
out when Kyle MacLachlan's character comes out with all like the research he found out about her.
Yeah, Yeah, it feels like it all kind of comes together, but it's like it's right at the end, and it feels like not like I like no like no, fucking Naomi or Nomi. Like I like her, but I feel like just like a lot of parts of the movie, I feel like we needed a bit more time with it. I feel like we
Yeah.
really didn't really sit on it because this movie keeps on going with certain stuff and feels like I said, start to repeat. It's like, oh, she's making her way up, but I feel like we could have these like smaller scenes because early on there's a lot of cool smaller scenes because we have well yeah, the doggy chow conversation is funny. Like there's stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there's also the whole thing of her going to Versace and the whole thing
H.
yeah. And her buying that dress and how people make fun of her and all that shit. Feels like we need smaller stuff like that because this movie is like feels like it's too broad and it doesn't dive enough into what it is trying to expand on because it's trying to appeal. Like even though it's NC-17, it feels like it's still trying to appeal to like a general crowd, even though they're not able to see it. So it was kind of like a lose-lose situation with the way it's been, with the way it was created and the way it was structured.
Yeah.
Not to say it was like
Yeah, I
it's a
remember.
bad movie, but I feel like just like inevitably it's just kind of a
It's just the issue where, like, you know, it's going to be like a very specific crowd, which, you know, they found that crowd throughout the years, you know,
yeah.
like when it comes to like, you know, that cult following. I remember like fucking like one of the interviews was like with a, you know, one of the people who run like Midnight Madness, you know, who like Showgirls without time, and like they talked about like how they heard about through John Waters, who loved it at the
Oh,
time.
that's funny.
Yeah,
John
so
Waters name drop.
yeah. So it's really funny because of that, where it's like, you know, especially with like the queer people I noticed, what comes like, you know, their love of it, you know, what comes to like how it all comes together with that. What comes to like, you know, it is so campy and it like has that certain like appeal to it.
Yeah.
It's able to like, you know, draw into certain audiences because of that, which I really respect about that, I think.
Yeah.
So like even though like it's such a niche crowd, it is a crowd still that like really loves it and appreciates it, you know. Like that's the
Yeah.
big thing.
Some art just really needs to take its time for people to appreciate it. That's why I think some certain things should come back with older theaters where, like I said, fucking Star Wars and like The Exorcist and Jaws, they ran for for like 2 years. I'm pretty sure they ran for a while, like in theaters. Like I don't know where that went. That just went away.
We've never seen something like that before. They were huge. Those are like the first two blockbusters ever made.
Yeah, but even when like something didn't last that long, at least it got a good chunk of time. But it feels like nowadays you get like 1 month.
It's like 2 weeks. It's like 2 weeks sometimes even, you know?
Yeah, fucking like
fucking
Wild
Robot
Robot,
was,
like 2 weeks or like 3 weeks after, just like digital release, like it was ridiculous.
Well, that's because streaming has like killed it all now. Because that's just made
But
people.
more like the pandemic
People to not go to the cinema that much because
Yeah,
I'll
and
just wait for it to come out on
streaming's just
streaming.
not viable financially. That's why the DVD and VHS sales were such a good compromise. It feels like to a certain point, I kind of miss the fact that we had that fuzzy VHS vibes and that DVDs were like that because I feel like the more that we evolve, the less limitations we have, the more just kind of saturated everything is. And it's like I saw this video. I didn't watch it, but it was like a title where it's like like the sort of like the beauty of like having limitations, like having that sort of like limit where you have to pick and choose. Like, oh, you have to go to a DVD like a video store, and you can maybe choose like 2 or 3 because you can't afford all that much. Kind of like that's way more viable to build a crowd because with content and like streaming, it's like it's like a sea of a bunch of shit, and you know that's what makes like really small movies like never catch on sometimes because they're just so buried amongst other like posters and other movies where it's just like okay, it's really just like hard to get into it. But yeah, that's kind of the beauty of something like a cult classic. I don't think we can have cult classics anymore or as much as there used to be.
I think there are some cult classics.
But
You
definitely
still get them.
but definitely not as much. And it feels like there's some cult classics that should have just become classics, but I feel like that's never gonna happen again. It feels like they'll just stay being cult classics if they ever do become one. It's kind of a weird structure, but that's kind of how I view it.
Maybe people don't like Showgirls mainly because of the performances and the script. And let me be clear, there's a lot of very wacky lines that I wrote down while I was watching the
film. You want me
film.
to say some lines? I'll say some.
I got some. I'll start off with one.
All right.
I got one here. This one with James Smith, where he's talking to Nomi, And it's the famous one that everyone always likes to quote.
Oh, is it the
Yeah,
AIDS
Man,
one?
everybody got AIDS and shit.
Yeah, there's that one.
There's that one.
There's also you can never handle all these wrinkles of fat. I'd have to piss on you to give you a clue.
Yep.
Yeah, there's that one.
It's so like
Another one.
campy and like it feels like John Waters lines. I don't think he mentioned John Waters like himself, Paul, or like the writer, but like it feels like something John Waters would do. That's the thing. Like in terms of those lines, when it comes like those deliveries, it's really fun.
Only people I know who got pimp cars is pimps. That's like a line I'd write. Like,
There's also there's this background line that's kind of like hidden in the mix where it's like, I love thighs. I almost get off on thighs, like armpits too. It's like, what the fuck?
oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, there's some crazy lines on here.
Yeah,
You know what you're doing there? You fuck them without fucking them.
So fun. It is so
She
fun.
looks better than a 10-inch dick. That was the best one. That was my favorite. I was like, yes.
Yeah. I love that there's like monkeys randomly in the movie as well. And
I
that,
love that scene.
I don't know what was going on in that scene.
yeah, they said monkey alert. And I was like, what the fuck is even going on? Why is there a monkey alert, bro?
I was like, I remember like fucking like when I was like watching, I was like, why are there monkeys? What?
What's the point of this? I mean, it's because it's like a part of the show, like a next act of a show. But like, what is the point of the scene other than telling me, oh yeah, there's a monkey show on after?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
what's the
I
point?
remember like Nomi and like Crystal, they had this exchange where it's like, we're the same, you and I, and then she said, I'll never be like you, and it was so fucking like, I'm fine with corn, but that much corn is like, that's enough. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that shit.
You're an amazing creature, Spider-Man. You and I are not so different.
But yeah, like it's like that type shit. But like, it's just a weird line placement because it feels like even though this movie is like just like campy, it feels like it never reaches that sort of level except for that time. That whole general dynamic is all right. I think they could have done more with that. But
Yeah.
that's generally with a lot of things in the movie, and I don't know. I came out of it thinking it was pretty decent. I don't know, cause I don't know. I feel like we haven't talked about the end enough because there's the whole
The ending is like a lot.
Yeah.
Like what it throws at you.
yeah. Cause now she
It's
becomes
like-
a success because she pushed Crystal over, and what's weird is that her friend's like, oh, I can't believe you did this. You obviously pushed her. It's like, just come with me to the party, and then she goes to the party. It's like nothing even happened.
I felt like I thought I missed like a scene or something. I thought I might wind it back, but I was like, no, I can't have missed anything. That was only like a minute. Like, what did I
Yeah.
miss? That was so weird.
There was that, and then after that, it's like okay, and she finally meets the big star. Forget his name, but she's like, "Oh yay, I get to finally talk to him." And he's like, "Oh, you might go to bed with me." And then she gets sexually assaulted, basically, and that's when a movie feels like a sudden turn. It feels like that's when there's gonna be a whole other like 30 minutes with this, but no, it's like about 10 minutes more after
15.
that. Yeah, around
More
that.
15. Like that's my biggest issue with the film is like that final like part where it's just like such a sudden whiplash of like emotions that just happens out of nowhere and like for me at least like what comes like darker
I
stuff.
will
like
say,
that, you know
they
I
treat
think it can work
the situation as it is. It's a really bad situation. They don't make it perversive. It is brutal. It happens. It happens quick. They don't show it that much. It doesn't feel exploitive at all. And
it's
she's
just more the
down in
fact that
hospital.
like it's just the whiplash that's like the weird part. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel on that.
It feels
like-
like it feels like something like Boogie Nights, where it's like that's the sudden turn when everything gets really dark. But it's not even like that. It's just like that's when the movie ends, because
Yeah.
she takes her vengeance by seducing him and then throwing him with a knife, and then kicking his ass basically, and walks away and then leaves Las Vegas. And it's like that's it. Is that really the end? And
Yeah.
it is pretty much. It feels like are we missing something? Like I feel like we're missing like 20 minutes. And that's not even accounting for before like that certain section, because I feel like the movie is still missing a lot of parts even earlier, even as much as I like 2/3 of the movie.
What do you think it's missing?
I don't know. It feels like these relationships feel like super basic, because the whole like rise to fame shit feels like it goes by so quickly, and a lot of it feels like it's showing off just the dancing, which is impressive. I think it's very impressive and all the set design
I
and
love
all
the
that stuff. It's cool,
movie.
but
And
it
I
feels
know, like, you know,
like
what
at a
advertising,
certain point,
they showed.
it feels like to a certain point it's wasting time and sometimes doing a bit too much. It just kind of becomes apparent. I'm not sure exactly what they would add, but it feels like we're missing something certainly.
I
Like
just feel like a little bit more time with like Nomi
yeah,
sinking in like her. I feel like would have made things better.
for
I
sure.
feel that I feel like just alone would like add like better like sense of like scale, so and getting bigger and bigger. Instead of just like it just
Yeah,
kind of
pretty much.
happens.
I thought we'd have more to talk about,
Oh
but
no, there's
Yeah.
still more. I think there's still more to talk about, like a bit more when it comes to
Well,
like
you did
just
all the
general stuff.
research, yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, when it comes to like one thing as well, when it comes to like those dance sequences, originally like before like the film, right as the film was revealed, publicly, they used
Mm.
like the fucking motorcycle dance sequence to advertise it. Is the funny thing as like one of
Oh.
the trailers,
Hmm.
just as like that was kind of like it was just like people were like, what the fuck is this movie about? What is he cooking? So like
Oh.
I feel like a sense of mystery to the film before until like it was actually released, which is interesting to me,
Hmm.
and like and like just in general, like when it comes to certain aspects of the production, like a lot of people were questioning, like if this was really the right move. But Verhoeven, like was very like strict when it comes to like the original script in terms of like how it was gonna go. Basically with Basic Instinct, because like you mentioned our ending earlier, Paul and the writer had a fight over that. What was like if they should change it or not, and they didn't,
Mm.
and it became a huge success. So Paul pretty much went, because of that, yeah, we're just gonna, keep the script exact. We're not going to, alter it anyway for the most part.
Oh. Hmm.
So that's
Hmm.
why, like, some parts maybe just aren't, as good. Because, like, of course, I'm pretty sure they did like multiple drafts, but like, it wasn't like, during filming, it
Huh.
didn't like change much. Is the
And that
thing.
from that perspective, yeah, it does feel like it is kind of a first or second draft. Doesn't feel like it's fully there. Hmm.
So that's something which like I was thinking about when it comes like when you were bringing that up.
Mm.
Maybe some like maybe if like he did look it over a bit more and like allowed him to like give some critiques with certain stuff, then maybe it would be
Yeah,
like a bit more fleshed out. I
for
feel.
sure, for sure. Cause yeah, it feels like something was definitely missing just at the core of like the writing. But yeah, that makes sense. Uh, is there like any more stuff you have to add on like in terms of like production stuff?
There's like a decent amount. Let me like think about because I didn't take any notes, but like I'm just going off of like memory.
Mm.
Um, when it comes because I, as well I need to actually think because like I didn't watch those but like it was a couple days ago at this point so
Mm.
like I probably should have taken notes.
Yeah,
I'm bad
probably.
taking notes. Like,
It's
Hmm.
okay. Um, I've only like this episode I started taking notes because last one I was like riffing, just based on memory, and I remember Furiosa pretty clear, but Inside Out 2.
oh right, I remember now. I remember one more thing. Is that fucking when it comes to like how he was like in like when he was a writer, how he was inspired by stuff. Is that like for some reason Costa Gravas who made fucking Z
Oh,
his work was the inspiration
yeah.
for fucking Showgirls in some regards because like the more political angle, which is surprising to me when it comes to like the
I
way
did
that this
not
is.
feel that whatsoever, Bo. So I've never seen that movie.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, neither have I.
I've not seen any of his work. It's just like something which I was just like, huh, okay, or just like a slight like hint in there when it comes like critique.
well, that
I
just
guess
happened. I guess.
yeah, that was really funny to me. I remember like fucking saying that, telling you that in DMs.
Yeah, yeah, I remember. Shockingly, I thought it was all right. Like, I don't have like the strongest feelings on it. I just think it could have been better. And that's the thing. In like perspective of the rest of his work, it's pretty interesting how this is like his sort of next step, and how it's kind of like this ambitious work, and how the reactions to it feel like very in line with like the culture at the time, and how it kind of reflects like how things are now in terms of like sexual stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm glad like there's a crowd of people that are starting to appreciate this more. And in general, like guys, sex is back in movies, sorta. I think it's
yeah,
getting better. It's kind of cool to
maybe,
see that, but we're not quite
yeah.
there yet. We're not at Showgirls level yet.
Yeah,
Um,
and the thing is, as well, is that like one more thing
yeah.
when it comes to like the general like reputation
I mean,
now is that
say
right now,
sex in movies, but there's only like truly one sex scene and one rape scene.
Well, and
but
it's I guess it's all about like sexual implications. I feel like that's kind of back because like it feels like that's why a lot of like modern romance stuff, like most of them don't work. It's just they don't have the sauce. We don't get a when Harry met Sally like orgasm scene. You know, we don't get that anymore. We don't get that anymore.
Oh, an amazing scene. It's a classic. It's like one for the ages, Israel.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's wild. Okay, fine. I'll watch all of when Mary. I'm fucking when Harry
When
met
Mary
Sally.
hit Sally.
You should. It's one of my favorite films.
Pretty much. I really don't think I have that much else to say.
I don't think so either. Besides, I want to mention at least. Once again, I did watch Showgirls too. I want to mention some shit about that. Some a little bit of history. At least the limited history we have, since like I tried checking the Wikipedia page and like there was nothing about it. She didn't mention it at all. Like the fucking director and like main actor, which I'll mention as well in a bit. But like they didn't fucking say anything on the Showgirls like interview about that film. Besides being involved with like the Midnight Madness like showing. You see now, so it's just like. It's kind of a mystery when it comes like how this film came to be, for me, when it comes to piecing it together. But Showgirls 2, for some reason, follows Penny from Showgirls as the main character. It's the original actress and everything, So like,
and she's directing it.
Yeah, she directed it,
Oh.
And it's a real and they got some of the original actors back. But for the record, this is pretty much a camcorder movie. Is the thing. If you don't know what I mean by camcorder movie, like Amazing Bulk or Shark Exorcist level shit.
You mean a bargain bin movie?
Yes. We're at the bottom of the barrel with shit here.
Oh, no.
Did you say they made like a fundraiser?
Royalty-free music with royalty-free
Oh
music.
my god! You didn't mention this.
Yeah, I mentioned it in chat.
Oh my god.
It's bad. It's really bad, and nothing happens. It barely even feels like a Showgirl sequel. They don't barely mention the events of the original in any way. Things just happen. It's
Probably
bad.
because Penny was barely there for most of it. She's only there for like 5 minutes of the first half, and then like 5 minutes of the second half.
I know, but she's like the main character of Showgirls too. Is the thing.
Stupid.
She is so bad, and like she doesn't feel like the same character at all from like the little bit we got from the first film. And it's so I don't you understand, okay? Right before recording I finished this movie, I'm already forgetting it. Like I don't remember anything from it. I'll send you a fucking screenshot from it. Like fucking a moment I was just like so confused by the fact that like it just happened. Like I put it in my chat, but I'm gonna put it here too. You see this shit? You see this shit?
What am I looking at here?
What was that about?
What am I looking
I don't know. He just fucking like finds this like statue thing and just start fucking talking to it or some shit. I don't even remember.
Sucks the dick.
No, there's no dick. There's no penis.
So, dude, what is she bending down for?
She's like praying to it. She sees her arms.
Oh, her arms are out. Oh, okay. I didn't see that.
Her arms
Okay,
are out.
that is
Are you
weird.
blind?
Yeah, I have glasses.
Yeah. It's so bad. It's so stupid. I don't know.
Maybe you're just not smart enough to understand it.
Yeah, maybe it's like maybe the fact that it's on camcorder is like Afro surrealism, you know?
Shut up. It's not like that at all.
It's like Kafka-esque.
No.
Maybe it's a liberal conservatism.
Oh wait, also another scene is like it was right near the end of the movie. There's this like fucking like a prostitute lady, like this saggy prostitute lady, and like she has her like sign like the main character Penny has her sign fucking her ass with lip gloss.
Oh.
Okay.
It's not as sexy as it sounds, for the record.
Okay.
Yeah, this movie is worthless. I just want to mention it at least since I watched it in preparation.
Yeah, it's so funny. You watch what, like a 2 hour, fucking longer than the original, 2 hours like 20, and you literally had like only a couple minutes to say on it. That is insane.
Yeah, I don't.
You're cooked.
You understand? You understand? Okay, I had to. Okay, I had.
No,
to.
you didn't. You really didn't.
Had to.
Because you didn't even talk much about it. There's nothing to say about it.
It's so, you know what's funnier? What was funnier is the story of how he tried to watch it with someone. That whole thing was a fucking nightmare, dude. Yesterday it was like 2 days ago. He was begging for anyone to watch Showgirls 2 with him.
Watch Showgirls 2 with me, please.
Because you start off like, okay, let's get Josh. It's like, okay, Josh, please, because they were kind of playing on it before. It was like, oh, Israel, I can't do it tonight. I gotta do it next morning. And then he was at fucking somewhere else, and he was like, Josh, please, and then nothing happened there. And then fucking he begged pretty much everyone, because he asked for Danis, who. Fuck that fucker. He didn't join me for the Texas Chainsaw episode. But like he was like, all right, I could watch this with you. He's like, I got the time. But then he also said he didn't got the time. He said like, "Oh, I only got like 10 minutes of free time." I was like, "What? Why did you say yes anyway?" Like I was wondering why he even said yes. He was like, "Yeah, sure." I was like, "How long is it?" It's like, "Why would you ask if you only have like 10 minutes of free time?" That was so weird. And then there was also fucking like, oh, okay, so pretty much asked everyone. He was asked Matthew, who's been on this podcast. He was like, "All right, Matthew, can you please do this?" And he said no. But then he got his friend, his real life friend, who's also in the server. Is like, "Okay, please join me." He's like, "Okay, why?" Is like, just do it. It's Showgirls 2. And apparently he DM'd Matthew and said, "What is Showgirls 2?" Like, this is not a real situation. Oh my lord. But like, that happened, and it's like, okay, sure, as long as Matthew joins. And so Matthew joins, and it's like, all right, do you guys want to watch Showgirls too? And it's like, no, not really. And then we spent just a long time just arguing over the fact that you wanted to watch Showgirls too. It's like, fuck, I'm gonna be alone. And it's like everyone had like 30 minutes of time. I had to leave and go somewhere. Everyone was basically like busy, and then it was just like, I just want to watch Showgirls too. And it's just like, oh my god. He was so cooked.
Are you drinking Lionel Hutz and fucking
I tried to get fucking Matthew's alt account to join. I was like, oh, I wonder how that's gonna work. Oh my god.
As a joke.
It sounds messy as it happened. So yeah.
No one wanted to watch a bad film with you, Israel. I haven't.
Well, the thing is, I like since I see it now, it probably would have been a really boring watch party because so much of it has like so much dead air and like it's just mostly just fucking white shots in order to like get everyone in frame so they can just like quickly get their lines. So
what if it's like brilliantly composed? What if it uses the L system like Spielberg?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Shut up. Standing around for most of it. They're just standing around doing nothing. They even fucking...
Does it at least use rule of thirds?
No. They rip off scenes from Showgirls 1 for the record as well. They fucking steal... They fucking steal like the fucking like whole like diamond scene from the original film. Where like they throw like, those fucking like diamonds on the floor, But it makes so much less sense. It's like it's like it's right behind her, and like she just fucking like steps on them somehow, and like it looks like fucking she just like crawls on the floor to pretend that she got hurt instead of like actually falling or anything, like in the original scene. So it's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's such a dumb fucking. It's worthless. It's genuinely worthless.
Yeah, man.
I don't know.
Yeah, you spent like fucking like 10 minutes of your time on, or like fucking 15 minutes on your time on that, and now we're moving on.
Yeah.
You wasted your time, man. You wasted 2 hours and like 20 minutes of your life. You could have been watching literally anything else.
Hey, at least I got out there as the Showgirls expert, quote unquote.
Was it really worth that?
Yes, it was.
Okay, man. Yeah. Okay.
As I can say, I've seen it now.
It's funny. You say you're the expert, and you're like, "Oh, I forgot what happened in the behind the scenes interviews." All right, bro.
Hey! I still told like a lot of stories.
Yeah, you did. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. I got some more things, a few more things to say about Showgirls.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you got Robert Davi, who is he's the strip club manager. You know the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was like, oh, it's him. I'm surprised to see him because I know him from a few things.
I remember him mainly for this line. It was, "I'm not hiring you back, not even after you give me a fucking blowjob." That's the way he said it. Was funny.
Or the later bit where he comes to see Nomi, and he turns and the sentimental music plays. He turns to look back at her and says, "Must be nice not having anyone come on you." And I was like, yes, that's my favorite line. The setup, perfect.
It's crazy.
But I was quite surprised to see him because I know him from a few other things.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
he's one of the FBI agents from Die Hard's,
Oh.
and yeah, and he's the villain of my favorite James Bond film, License to Kill.
Oh. That's gay.
What? No, it's not. What?
Anyway, let's move on.
Oh, one more thing. Elizabeth Berkley's performance. Do we think it's actually good or not?
I think it works. I think it works really well. Like it takes a bit to get used to, but like I think it is a good performance.
I think it's a
remember
good
actually like
performance, yeah.
I remember like fucking like I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but like Paul Verhoeven said that like he said to her directly they're gonna call your performance shit and call the movie shit because they they're gonna say it's just because they're not gonna say it's because they're uncomfortable. They're just gonna say it's bad. That's what about like he said that to her specifically. I remember that. That's another bit, And like that's fair because like that's kind of exactly what happened. What comes like the response a bit, So like
Pretty much.
and I don't get why people hate her performance so much. I think it works well for what the film's going for.
I feel like she got nominated for Worst Actress for the Razzies.
She did.
Like,
I think she did.
Yeah.
Pretty sure she did.
It's like, okay.
The Razzies
really
are a joke
isn't.
anyways.
Yeah, they are. They're pretty much like they will literally back down on the fucking flip of a coin if the fucking reputation changes.
Did you know the fucking like no? Did you know that the Nolan Insomnia remake got fucking like worst like shit there at the Razzies, like worst adaptation, I think.
Yeah, worst remake / adaptation. Yeah, that seems stupid.
Wow. I don't know what they're talking about there. That movie seems just good,
Yeah,
like,
Memento should have been nominated for worst picture.
I'm just gonna kill you. I don't even want to ban you. I just want to fucking kill you.
Can we get a heat check on Gina Gershon in this film? I mean, god damn.
What?
No. Get a heat check? No. Can I not get a heat check?
No, we're good. Nah.
Okay, yeah. Let's just go to our ratings. Let's just go to our.
Let's get to the ratings. All right. So, it's the big reveal. What is your rating for Showgirls?
6 out of 10.
Me too.
Really?
Me too.
Yeah.
6 out of 10.
It was either like between like a 5 or a 6, but like honestly, I'm more close to a 6. Honestly,
it's a middling 6 for me. Yeah.
I see.
And what's your rating, A critic?
I don't know. I gotta say,
Okay.
7 or 8, maybe.
You know what? That's fair, buddy.
I respect that. That's the thing. I respect Showgirls lovers. That's the thing. I respect people who fuck with that shit. And like I really respect. I just immensely respect that.
It's campy. It's fun. It has some good messaging.
Entertaining, is like so out there and wild.
Yeah, I was
I'd enjoy showing this to other people just to see their reactions.
Yeah,
I know. That's the thing is that like even though like I don't even love it that much in the grand scheme of things, I'm definitely gonna be rewatching this movie in the future.
Yes,
definitely. It is like even though the movie's weird, like I think and it kind of falls off near the end. I think it's pretty entertaining consistently.
Yeah,
it's definitely something you can watch, and it is at least good for a good chunk of it. So, yeah.
Good.
So yeah, maybe 7 or 8 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very mild on it, but you know what? I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I'm very glad I watched it.
Yeah.
And like, I definitely want to check out more Verhoeven stuff throughout the future. I definitely need to watch Basic Instinct and like fucking Total Recall.
Yeah.
Both look really cool.
For sure.
Maybe I'll watch Space. Wait, what's the film?
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers. Yeah, I want to watch that. He's made some newer stuff I want to check out. Maybe.
Yeah, he made fucking Benedetta. That looks like a weird fucking movie, which is exactly why it's probably good. I think there's some like really early stuff like Turkish Delight and like there's also that I think he made like. Vendetta's like the one modern one that everyone talks about, but like his first 2000s movie was also Hollow Man, which I heard people think it's and Ellie also happened, but I don't know. It's like post 90s, he post like 1999. I don't think anyone watched this stuff as much. But yeah,
it's not like
kind of disappeared after that.
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah. He's supposed to just like in and out. I think when it comes to just doing some occasional stuff. I feel like though from RoboCop to Starship Troopers. Like that's like his like big run. I think when it comes to stuff.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
Those are all cemented as like classics. I'm pretty sure at this point.
Yeah.
Even
Even
Showgirls.
Showgirls.
I still don't understand how this is seen as like one of the worst films ever made. I don't hear
Me too.
that nowadays.
I don't get it either.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't.
get it.
I just
I really
don't get it. It's just must be because they're prudes. People were prudes at the time. That's literally it. I think.
I don't know how people were prudes at the times. I mean, that was the 90s. I wouldn't say that was a very prudish time.
Well, like the people who watched it and like because it was a limited audience. Like
Yeah.
I guess so.
It didn't have its chance right from like the get go. So oops.
And it pretty much killed Elizabeth Berkley's film career.
Pretty much.
I did.
And it didn't even begin, and it's already over.
It was in S. Starco. Oh.
Oh no!
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh my lord. Oh.
She was in Roger Dodger. Has anyone seen that film?
What is directed by Dylan Kidd, who has also directed Get a Job and Party Brat.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're done.
Yeah, we're cooked. She's cooked. She's just cooked.
She's cooked as soon as filming wrapped.
Well, she at least peaked, with Showgirls.
Exactly. This is all a happy ending because people like the movie now. So, yeah.
It only took nearly 30 years.
Mm. Yep.
Do we have much more to say on Showgirls, or are we done?
Nope. I don't got much.
We're done.
It's time to move on.
See, for the people who don't know, for the audience, the original idea for this episode was to have 2 stripping episodes. So we were going to do Showgirls and the Full Monty together, but Xander changed it at last minute.
Yeah, because... Not last minute. No, because after we had that, we also briefly talked with Israel about like having his own episodes. Like, okay, let's do Showgirls. I was like, well, do we really want to do Full Monty? And it's like we had the whole thing with Israel where we thought, a critic thought that Israel was going to give the Babadook a 10. Which, if you know anything about Israel, that doesn't make any fucking sense. But it's still a good movie.
It's an extremely real cool movie.
Is it? I mean, I see it now. I'm gonna say right now, I like it, but like, I don't imagine a world where it would ever be a 10. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest.
But
even
besides that was basically the whole thing, and so it evolved from there, and it was like kind of a weird like contrast. But now it's weird because now it's just like the one weird child, and then the other two are like they're just like they're weird sexual. But I guess like Babadook is more related to fucking Substance because it's horror, but still, yeah. Because like I said, Substance was not meant to be part of this, but here we are.
Change of plans.
Yeah, that was an actual last minute change.
Yeah, that was the real last minute change. But yeah, let's talk about the Babadook. Thoughts?
Do you want me to introduce this one?
Yeah, because this is the one that you thought both of us were gonna really like. So yeah, go on.
Alright, so the Babadook, 2014 movie. From Australian writer-director Jennifer Kent. And I got a little note first. I've just noticed Australia and Australians have been cropping up recently in the Dumps episodes.
That's true.
If we go back 2 more episodes, we had Baz Luhrmann, Australian director, and also he did the movie Australia, which is about Australia. Last episode, we had Furiosa, directed by George Miller, Australian director, and also starring Chris Hemsworth, Australian actor. And then now we come back to this 3rd episode now, Australian horror movie.
I hope you know that this is gonna be like a 0 now. This movie just because of that.
Oh wow.
Okay, so the Babadook is a 2014 horror drama. Yeah, it's a horror drama. It's about it's a single mother who's grieving over her dead husband who died while she was about to give birth, and they were driving her to the hospital, and her husband died in a car crash when her child was born, and it's about 6 years later, and she's still grieving over him, and she's very distant from her child, and her child is he's not the best. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
he's very out of control. He's got some behavioral problems because he's not really parented properly because she's keeping him at like arm's length.
Yeah.
And one night when she wants to read him like a book to go to bed, he pulls out one from the cupboards. It's called It's called Mr. Babadook.
Mr. Bob.
And it basically, when they read the book, it basically invites this monster into the house that they have to deal with and settle with.
Pretty
So
much,
yeah, that's the basic premise.
Yeah.
So what did we think, people? I'm more interested to hear what you two had to say.
I think it's quite good. It's quite good.
I think it's pretty good,
Yeah.
but like the first half took a bit to like really warm up on me, I will say, and like that did affect my thoughts a bit. But like after a while, I realized it was pretty good actually, and I was just overreacting a bit with that first half.
Really, I feel like it starts like pretty strong. I was pretty surprised how early the book gets introduced.
For me, I thought the first half was stronger. Honestly, I thought that first half was actually really genuinely like interesting to me. I do like the way they introduce like the other stuff in the second half, but you can get into that. But in general, I thought because I hear a lot about how this kid has like developmental issues and how he's kind of annoying, and it's like
nothing demands.
I'm watching this kid, and it's like this is a very like realistic portrayed, very annoying kid. But it doesn't.
Yeah.
For me personally, like I feel like when I was younger, I was even more annoying than I am now. And it's like I can sort of project similar behaviors in that way. I'm not completely like this nowadays, but it pops up. But
Relatively.
I think the kid is very realistically portrayed. I love the way it's a very convincing performance, and it's like a remarkably good like kid performance. I really like.
He's genuinely great.
Yeah, I love Sam. He's Noah Wiseman who plays him. He is great as this very annoying kid, but you understand him like even though he's like fucking annoying because he no father, and he's just as open-minded as his father.
Behavior.
Yeah, and he's very wanting that attention because once the Babadook is introduced, he's kind of like he wants to protect her, but at the same time, with his whole behavior issues, he also hates her and starts to just like basically demonize her because the first half it feels brutal because he's doing a lot of stuff, but as a kid, you don't realize like how bad the things you're doing are. Because when he's like breaking glass, like the glass on the door or whatever, he doesn't really mind it at all. He just thinks of it as just another fun thing to do. While for his mom, this is another fucking issue that she has to deal with every day. And it's just kind of like that cycle of behavior. The teachers are telling his mom like, "Oh, your child doesn't really just like mesh with everything, and he doesn't really belong. He needs to deal with his issues." They have to call like child protective services at some point, and it becomes like a really big issue. And I feel like the turning point for me was kind of, I know we're skipping like a major ahead, but like that whole birthday sequence with her, I think it's her sister or her cousin's daughters.
Yeah, it's Sam's cousin's birthday.
Yeah, Sam's cousin's birthday. And that whole thing of how that girl did as much bad shit as he did, because she was basically, even though she doesn't realize how much that hurts him, it's like, oh, you don't have a dad. Your dad probably didn't like you. He probably didn't want you. Like, none of us want to like be around you. You're weird and you're annoying. And it's like,
yeah, but she's picking all that up from her mother as well, who's also shit talking them when they're not around.
Yeah. It's such a detailed situation because you realize like she doesn't really get what she's saying and how mean it is, but she truly believes it because she will follow whatever her mom says based on like what she says, and she generally like probably just finds him weird as well. And as someone who had like that sort of temper issues just as like he did, it's like that seems like really like hit hard for me because it is something that does really happen, because that is like a really hard thing to deal with because you get picked on, you get made fun of, and you just don't know how to deal with it. So of course you just like aggressively just like pushes her, bleeding her nose, and it's just like it's portrayed as is. It's bad, and he did something bad, but like you understand exactly why he did that. He's a kid. He doesn't have a full grasp on his emotions, so of course he'll just like throw them out there. It's the same way that he reacts about the Babadook, because it's like a weird love-hate thing with his mom, but it's not portrayed like he hates him. She just like wants her desperately to like pay attention to him, to like understand him, and sometimes he does it in violent ways.
There's that bit where she's dressing him up and getting ready for school, and he's just like fucking around doing magic tricks. He's trying to say, "Mom, Mom," while she's just trying to tie his shoes up, and she's really not paying attention to what he's up to. I felt that.
Yeah, it felt so realistic to that idea, because a lot of children, and it's like same behavior as me, same children I see around, like whenever I'm walking to places, they always like need that like desperate attention, because that's someone that that's the only person they're familiar with. It's the only one that can protect them, and it's the only one that provides for them. So they will basically attach themselves to them. And when it's a problem child like that, it gets really grating, and you feel for the mom, but you also feel for the kid as well, because it's such a realistically portrayed situation. And I found it like deeply real, but also just like in this strange territory, because with this movie, the sound design is amazing. I love all the sound choices. Immense. Oh, it's so good. I think really it's just like the whole set design as well, and the color choices and the lighting choices. It feels so particular. That whole dinner scene where it's just basically this, I think it's a plastic table and like these or really no, it's normal chairs, but it's like a very basic.
Which dinner scene is this? There's quite a few in the movie.
It's the first one where I think it's...
No, they're sitting at opposite ends of the table.
Yes, yeah, opposite ends. That shot was great, because it's like that gray color, the whole, how all the walls are like very like muted blue, and the whole there's a limited amount of like utensils and like stuff around. There's not really that many pictures, because a lot of them are in the basement, and it all feels very empty and like
very sparse
and very haunted, like something's like really missing from everything. And that those subtle choices don't feel at all obvious, because I feel like it kind of reminds me of like Coraline early on, when like everything's like they're moving in and there's like not many things around. They're still unpacking everything. Everything's gray, everything's monotone, and it's Coraline who stands out with her yellow coat and her blue hair.
Yeah.
That's sort of my reference base on like when I was noticing.
That's a good reference. That's a good reference. I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, but it's like that general idea. It's like, it's of course under a different context. I feel like with that movie, it's like, oh, that's what a child's like imagination of like, oh, this is what a boring place looks like. This is why I want to go to the other house, this other reality. That's kind of the whole thing. With this movie, it just feels like...
That's probably why Sam like gets into magic and all sorts, because his surroundings are so fucking empty.
Yeah, but it's not because of him, it's because of his mom. And it's like, that's
I know.
That's kind of like the whole dynamic, and that's what kind of makes it different.
And that's why he acts out the way he does, because of everything, like the negative impact his mom has on him.
Yeah, and...
it all ties back together.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, it's not just... And I love the way this film like moves it around, where it's like, he's not a bad kid, because his mom is just as like broken as well, because she is blatantly, just because like he's a problem child doesn't mean you should ignore him or ignore how his feelings, because he's trying to be honest with her about how, because the same way her husband was like, he was blatant, he said things as is. He spoke his mind. It's the same way with Sam, but in that way it's like, she's trying to ignore her trauma. She's trying to ignore the idea. That's kind of what the Babadook represents as well, and that's how we get into that stuff. But in that first half, we are very situated in the idea of this is just a son having these delusions and just being very much a problem child. But throughout that second half, you realize how much the mom has a problem as well, and that by ignoring him, she is therefore letting the Babadook kind of like consume her and win. And that's kind of gets into the whole idea of her being quote unquote abusive, or just kind of like schizo as the movie goes on. Yeah, I think I've said enough on that front, but yeah, that's what I kind of came out of it with the first half leading into the second half in terms of the main two. Yeah.
The reason, like, for me at least, like, when it came to that first half, it took me a while to really click. Because, like, I admit, I kind of did fall into that trap of really not liking Kid, you know? because like the performance itself like was convincing, and like I didn't have an issue with that. It's just more like I got the fact that like it was part of the point of him being really somewhat selfish and like really unbearing, But like for me as an audience member, I did feel like it was a bit too much at points, at first. It was just like I just didn't really fully get like where it was going with that, and I found myself to be a bit like critical of that for a bit, But like I feel like once the Babadook started coming in a bit more, playing into that more because like those psychological aspects, I feel like I kind of it all just sort of clicked in my head, I started to really appreciate it a lot more after that fact. It's a thing. And that was kind of like my biggest thing.
Yeah. A critic?
Yeah, just gotta make sure everyone is on the same page here. Are we all aware that the Babadook is a metaphor for grief and depression?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Good shit. Good.
It's good.
Yeah.
Can I also say that book, the pop-up book, I forgot how haunting that is when they first find it.
Yeah, I really like that scene, and like the fact that like it just sort of appears, and it's just like she doesn't know what to make of it when she's like just slowly reading through it herself in her head,
Yep.
It's just like
then when it shows up again after she gets rid of it, it shows up again after she like tears it all up and it's all fully repaired, and then extra pages pop up again and uncomfortable. It's the music, it's the sound design and the music as well.
Yeah. I feel like it's a bit much.
When she's like dealing with this stuff.
I feel like the first time around I was during certain parts of when she was reading, I feel like the sound design was a bit much, but overall, besides that, I think I genuinely like really love the sound design. And another thing is, I love the subtle touch that whenever the Babadook shows up, you can hear like crickets and these like
it's cockroaches.
Yeah, cockroaches.
Which is why when the cockroaches show up in the kitchen and then they show up again in the car.
Yeah.
It's like that's him.
Yeah, I love that. I love that sound indicator. That's such a subtle touch, but I really like it. But yeah, that whole thing, and how the Babadook is just a really like memorable design, and this sort of
it's simplistic, but it's memorable.
Yeah, I love the way it approaches that stuff, and how slowly just like it just gets worse and worse and worse. And it's funny because like the Babadook really is just like meant to be a symbol. It is just a symbol. And I love the sort of the subtle hints that the design is meant to look like her husband. It's kind of meant to look like him a bit in kind of with the coat and the hanging because in the basement you have the hanging outfit and it looks almost like identical to like Babadook. And I really like that touch because how it represents him and her grief over him.
Yeah.
Is good. That's good shit. Yeah.
And even when he appears in the basement, like near the end of the film, and he's the one to say, "Bring me the boy," and his voice gets all warped like the Babadook's, and then it's pretty much him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. And I also say I think about the sound design is that whenever there's like an eerie bit and the music is like getting louder and louder and louder, and then it will just like cut. It'll just like black out while Amelia is like getting rid of the problem. So it's like the first time when they open the book and the music is getting louder and louder and louder as they're reading through it, and then she just like closes it, music stops, puts it on top of the wardrobe, and that's the scene. And you expect a jump scare because the music is getting louder and louder and louder, but it just doesn't. And I like that they do that. They do that a couple more times in the film.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel obnoxious either. It feels like it's appropriately placed.
Yeah, and it still genuinely unnerves me. Essie Davis, I think, is the actress, plays Amelia.
Yeah.
She's fucking great in this film, man.
Great.
She's amazing.
She's so good. I love her performance, especially like, when she does start breaking down a bit more. And like, it's like so realistic and like raw with the way it's done. I really appreciate that. It's really good.
I will say the one part that kind of feels underplayed is the whole sexual repression aspect. I found it interesting.
I feel like that's interesting, but like I feel like it's done better and like expanded more on other stuff. With
that aspect where it's like he has a coworker who's really nice to him, and also she works at a retirement home, and it just reminded me of Better Call Saul. In the whole bingo scene.
When she's doing the bingo,
yeah.
I was thinking of Better Call Saul season 1.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that scene where he breaks down and talks about like his brother. And it's like, wow, you know what? Better Call Saul did it better. I was like, yeah, Right. Pretty much.
Better Call Saul will never stop.
I love Better Call Saul. Oh, I have a glazed
Yeah, no,
show.
but I think the sexual oppression bit, is there enough. It's not like a big
Yeah,
focus,
yeah.
but it is like there.
I
They
will
do
say
enough
I
with it.
understand why
Well.
it wasn't like the most thing focused on, because obviously it's focused on the Babadook and what he represents mainly, but yeah, it did just enough. It was just something like I personally could have wanted more out of, but I thought it was genuinely like that was a cool aspect as
You
well.
get the scene of her in the car watching the
Mhm.
couple neck in the other car when she's in the parking lot.
Yeah, there's also that scene where she's like trying to like touch herself while in bed, but then Sam like basically like cock blocks her in a way, I guess. Whatever. Well, that's not the appropriate word, but like you get the idea. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that whole part feels like appropriate. Feels like a natural reaction to like obviously what we set up.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm going back and I want to mention the opening. I thought that opening, the whole like levitating shit, that's really
Yeah.
well done. The whole like the way that crash is portrayed, it feels very Lynch. It feels like a very just like surreal and abnormal way to show it. Slow down, there's no noise at all, and you have all these like glass shatters, and she's just like rolling around. You can have the implication that the car is just sort of like tumbling and shit, and it
Yep.
feels so appropriate. And we get a glimpse of her husband, the whole light, and how it like consumes everything. It's so well done. And then she floats back into the bed. I love that. I love the way they do that, because it's like every time she goes to sleep, it's not an instant cut. It's like it's one really, really, really long like day for her. Like this whole movie is just one really, really long day for her.
Because she never gets any proper sleep.
Yeah.
Neither of them do.
Yeah, and it feels like so appropriate to what the film was going for. It's such an interesting choice. That part always stood out to me in the way they did that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was
I
really
really,
cool.
really like that too.
It's that bit. I think it's the bit where she's under the covers and she's sleeping, and it does like the fast forwards, and it's like straight to day where there's only been like 5 seconds of a fast forwards,
Yeah,
which she
yeah,
gets
just
like
like,
proper sleep,
Yeah,
and then it's
because
like,
like
oh, wake up, wake up.
Yeah.
I felt
really
that.
I really like those bits. What comes to like that feeling, what comes to like it is just so drawn out, and it just never really like relents in that sense. I guess what comes
The fact
to
that this movie is
how
as painful as it is, kind of what makes it like great and
yeah,
interesting to me. That's why I was just like I never really got the idea that the kid was annoying, and like I felt like just because you're uncomfortable with something doesn't make it bad, or like
well, of
just
course
because
not.
something's painful is like just
When I was
bad.
saying when I was watching it like during
No,
that
I just
first
mean
time,
like the
everyone-
general like people who don't like the
yeah,
movie.
yeah. That's always been like a weird criticism. I watched YMS's review, and his points there were pretty blah. What comes like, because like he mostly just said like fucking, like from memory, he just pointed out like the kid's acting isn't that good, even though that's not really true. He
It's not
pointed
really
out
true
just
at
like
all.
one or two like weird editing choices, and then like said that like the Babadook doesn't look scary. And that's literally like all he said
Bitch,
when it comes like the
what?
points of it being like not as good as people say it is.
God,
Like,
that
it
is
doesn't go into
not
depth.
anything. That is literally nothing to me. What?
Oh, he also says that like he feels like he wishes that like when it came to like revealing like the car crash, he said he wished that the kid didn't like reveal it so soon during like the beginning sections, but like that's still like I don't feel like those are like fair enough critiques to like say it's like super overrated as a whole. I feel like there's a reason why they connect with a lot of people in that regard,
Yeah.
and like. And like for me, it looks like it really shows psychological aspects when it comes to like that slow deteriorating of the mind.
Yeah.
Like once things start hitting the fan a bit more,
Yeah.
is that like when it comes back to like it's hard to tell like fully like what's real and what's not. And like in a way like when it comes to like during that first half where I wasn't really like liking the kid that much, it's kind of thrown right back at me with the mom, being really direct with that shit,
Yeah.
And I was just coming so off guard, and like it felt like oh shit, the film is. It really did feel like it was like playing its hand against me, and it was really clever that way. I feel I really liked that. Honestly.
Yeah, it's genuinely is a clever move on their front to give both of them like this really bad like choice of words and all these like different things that are obviously bad, but like for her it's worse because it's like you could tell like because now you understand completely why like you hate that kid like at first, and then you completely switch it up and you realize this is what this kid was basically wanting, and really like in retrospect, what he was asking for really was just like not even that bad, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
now her poor
exactly.
reactions are making her look bad, and then you start to realize, well, she's kind of been, just because she didn't necessarily do bad things only until now doesn't mean she wasn't like a bad person in certain parts, because her talking to her fucking sister, it's like you can't let go. It's like I haven't talked about him in so long, but there's a difference
But the
between
problem is,
not talking about
yeah,
someone and confronting the issue and moving on.
exactly.
And that's what makes that whole thing so brilliant, because it's like the Babadook is something by the end she has to manage for the rest of her life. But that makes her like become at peace with that sort of thing. And that's
You
what's
know,
so
it's all in the it
good about
just
it.
sits around in the basement. You gotta go look down in there every year on Sam's birthday. Just gotta go down in there and feed it every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like that. It's really cool what comes to like the idea, what comes to like being able to like not forget, but like be able to like properly live your life more.
Yeah,
And I feel like
Mhm.
that's a really clever aspect with it, because like she's not like outright word abusive to like Sam throughout most of the movie, but like
Yeah.
she's
no,
like
she's
much more like
mostly neglectful, and then it all just sort of like
yeah,
kicks off at the very end.
yeah, it's neglectful and like is like at
At
arms like
first,
barely at this point.
it was hard to adjust to that for me. At first, I was kind of a little confused on that front
And I
because
explained it to you.
What do you
yeah,
mean, which bit?
I was just kind of like not handling the whole thing with like turning the mom like kind of bad. At first, it felt weird, but I think with more time and talking with Israel a bit about it, it was just like, yeah, okay, it makes complete fucking sense, like why this
Yeah.
would be the choice.
Yeah, and she's
I do
not
think it's
perpetually mad because she has like spouts of anger in that
yeah,
second
yeah.
half, and then she just like calms down, and then it ramps back up again.
Yeah, it's
Then there's
basically like
another spout.
bipolarism in like real time, bro. And it's like
Yeah.
it's super well done. And oh yeah, basically, you know what? Fucking that mom was like Kanye, bro. Like, come on. Anyway, what
Oh.
what I'm saying is like, at first it's like you kind of have to deal with this as a genre piece, because I feel like sometimes you can feel like it's too rigid in that, with some movies that feel like they're doing this exact same thing, but they're doing it badly because they're so rigid with how they use their genre. And with this, it's like you're using a very explicitly horror, like a creature, in this like whole metaphor. It's like but it doesn't fall into the same pitfalls as a lot of elevated horror, like modern elevated horror. It doesn't fall into those same problems of just like being way too way less specific about everything, and being like super if you really think about it, being super just like clashing with how everything is. This feels like it has like
Yeah.
that perfect balance to everything. And because with the Babadook, the reason why he works is not because he's a literal thing, but at the same time he's not just a background thing. He's enforcing a lot of the human drama that's going on, rather than just being a whole other just like metaphor to just like tide you over and just not really mean anything.
Mhm.
And it doesn't ever feel like it goes into a just a I don't know how to like say this. It's because if you think about like I feel like I need an example of like bad elevator horror, but it just like compared to that stuff, it feels way more mature and well thought out. Because I know like Kent spent like a number of years trying to make this movie
Mhm.
and work out the script for a long time, and so you could definitely tell like how well thought out she thought of everything in this movie.
It's a
It,
very labored script.
yeah, it feels like
Yeah, it's really
so
well thought
personal
out.
and well thought out. Yeah, and it really works on pretty much on all fronts, because I really thought like if you could really easily screw up the idea of like the metaphorical horror, this elevator horror, and mixing horror and drama in this much of a direct way, because I feel like people can't appreciate like campy shit as serious art. And
Mhm.
that's why elevated horror feels so boring to me sometimes, because horror has a lot of camp kind of built into it since the beginning. So I don't know why like people are just like, blatantly just like can't accept it as such. And but this kind of like gave the idea, it's like you could do just like blatantly serious dramatic horror. You just really need to respect the audience and to also allow yourself to truly elevate it instead of just always trying to be like, this is horror. This is kind of goofy, but it's realistic. Like you don't need that.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that, and that's kind of when the movie stands out when it gets super surreal, and it has this good blend. It never feels like it clashes in any sort of way. I love this movie. It's good. Yeah.
I think they built the whole house from scratch, or at least the interior. They built from
Yeah,
scratch.
It feels like it.
It looks extremely stylized. It doesn't really look like the most conventional house somebody would like a normal person would live in.
Like,
I get it. It works.
I could be reading like a real house, but like it has such a specific like feeling when you like travel through the house.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it's so blatant about it. It feels like it just kind of becomes like you kind of blend into it the way everything's lit and everything.
It looks like Israel's house. That's what I picture Israel's house to be.
What? It's not. It's not. So I don't even have like an attic or anything, bro.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys something? Can I pose a thought experiment?
Yeah.
So we know the Babadook is a metaphor for depression and grief.
Mm-hmm.
And on first watch, I took it as is. There was a genuine monster. On rewatch, though, I tried to watch it with the perspective that the Babadook is just a manifest, like it's just like a manifestation of the depression and grief. It's not like a real monster. There was never like a real monster that was there. It's just like an imagination for like a visualization in Amelia's head and Sam's. It's not really like a real monster was there. So I tried to watch it with that lens, and it kind of works. I think it just about works. Like it's just like the bits where like, you know, the Babadook at the very end with the bed shaking and everything, and the Babadook's getting closer, and, you know, Amelia shouts it down. Maybe that's all just like heightened reality. It didn't actually happen, but something vaguely similar happened like that.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? Do you think that the interpretation that it was never there, it's not a real monster, is viable or not?
I think it is viable, actually.
I think it's viable too. I think it's like, you know, partially like in her head a bit when it comes to like, you know, what comes to like, you know, it's like just a representation of her fears. What comes to, like, you know, something that she sees across the corner of her eye. What comes to things, you know, like that's how I see it anyway.
It always felt to me just like, since Sam was so worried about it, it eventually got her to worry, and that just caused it to just like start to fall apart in terms of like her mental space. And she was already in a bad spot, lack of sleep, and that her isolation, that's kind of what created this whole monster to me, I guess, in her head.
That's all just built up too much.
Although I guess the supernaturalism of the book is kind of what complicates it, but I feel like explicit horror aspects like that I can still mesh well. It doesn't really distract. It feels like, because a lot of stories, like, as much as we want them to feel realistic, they're always going to have a weird, just like sudden part, because for all of these events to happen, you would need a lot of luck and a lot of like strange things to happen. So I could accept it as just like this is just the one supernatural thing. And yeah, so you could basically take it both ways, really. Earlier I was talking about the elevator horror thing, and I just figured it out. Have you all seen Hereditary?
No, I've not seen it.
Oh shit.
It.
Okay. I'm gonna be very vague with this, but basically,
okay.
Because the whole movie is about like familiar trauma. I mean, that's why it's called Hereditary. Yeah. And the thing about that to me is the movie works so well until like the ending, because it explains too much, while at the same time also not explaining too much. It feels like that pure example of like what's wrong with certain elevator horror movies. Because I like Ari Aster, but it feels like he spends too much time on explicitly trying to figure out what's going on instead of just accepting logic as is. And that's kind of what. So
it leaves less room for interpretation and tries to flesh it out, and then
it's too grounded. Kind of it's too grounded. That's what makes someone's like Eggers like so much better, because folklore, there's a bit more room to
interpretation.
And you know, people don't usually like accepting, like I said earlier about Showgirls, like this weird mix, like hyper reality, this weird like borders on like realistic and not realistic. People don't like doing that. But if you explicitly call it a fable, people are willing to accept the weird logic, which is why I think Eggers movies are way more mainstream than they should be. Is explicitly the way he presents it as a folklore, and that's what keeps people from like that's what keeps people invested in his movies, and that's what makes something like Hereditary feel like you're just like getting out of the movie like kind of flopped at that end, you know. And like I said, Showgirls, where it's like, okay, I didn't really get it. It didn't seem too realistic or too goofy because people are always want to accept explicitly goofy or explicitly serious. This is why
there could be no middle ground.
that's what makes stuff like Golden, like the fucking like what am I saying? The Golden Globes like bad because you're really separating their best pictures into comedy/musical and then drama. That's so stupid. That's genuinely like the stupidest thing ever because it limits like what we can call and what we can do with a film because I don't understand that rigid definition of what a film can be based on genre.
It's just those boxes, like, put it in such a spot where, like, it has to quote unquote just be that one thing in a way. And that's why, like, when May December got like best comedy, it was just like, huh? Like, that happened.
I mean, yeah, it is technically a fucking dark comedy, but like not in the traditional way that you think of. It's fucked up. It is fucked up, but like yeah, it's the same. It's kind of the same problem with Beau's Afraid, really, because
I feel like works pretty well with that.
No, I don't know. I feel like by the end, it is doing too much, and it feels like it simplifies its own message. Because I get it,
Yeah,
I get it.
fair.
It's like you're meant to be controlled, and it's like, then what is Beau's like? What is Beau's issues? Are they trying to like victimize him for it? It's like I guess the idea is like, oh, this is like kind of a dark ending. It's like he got what he deserved, but you don't like it, so that's why it's like a one big troll move. But it feels like it's simplifying it too much and it explains too much, and it's always been the same issue since Hereditary. So I guess it kind of lines up. I do like that movie for its experimentations. I think that first hour is genuinely a great fucking movie, but then the rest of it just kind of like falls off completely. I think for me.
For me, at least, like, I like the first hour and final hour in parts, but like that middle hour is like very odd, and I don't know. I need to rewatch it. I really do, like, in order to like form my thoughts on it again.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's too it's too much finding heart in just like this objective like reasoning, but it's also so completely like simplified that it literally has no complexity to it. It's like, okay, we get it, we get the message, but by nailing it in the head, you kind of muddle the rest of the movie, and so not everything fits together because you have part of the movie that are kind of like, this is what it means, but then part of this movie is kind of thinking, well, this is what it means. It's like we're sympathizing with Beau, but by the end we're also not supposed to, but we're also supposed to as well, and it doesn't really make any sense. And I don't know what it really is trying to say by the end because it's so fucking muddled and so indulgent to me. And
I
yeah,
do that.
that's kind of the problem with trying to do horror because something like elevator horror, you really need to like have that perfect balance. And I really think the Babadook and someone like Robert Eggers is kind of like what is like the pinnacle of that shit. They are able to make it accessible, but also super complex and well thought out. Like I really did appreciate this movie a lot, and I think I've grown to more like the Babadook as I've talked about this. So
Yeah,
yeah.
honestly, talking about it as well, like, honestly, is making me like it more and more as well. That's
Now
the
you
thing.
getting it. Now you getting it.
Hey, hey,
Not a
it's still
10.
not comparatively right. It's not 10.
Mhm. We'll get there one day.
You can.
Mm,
I don't think so.
yeah.
So you said, Suzanne, you said you liked the first half more than you liked the second half.
hmm
Anything you didn't like about the second half that much, or you just preferred the first half?
I just preferred the first half. I guess in with the second half, I thought that final confrontation was just a little basic, but I get the idea. Like I feel like um it gets the idea across pretty simply, but I don't know. Yeah, I didn't find it like that interesting to me, but it's a good enough conclusion, you know. And I think I really like the stuff post that, like right after that stuff. It's like it's great. I like the way they do the whole like, oh, you gotta feed it like every year. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the actual confrontation, I thought was
and
alright.
there's the bit where Sam asks when can I see it, and she says, oh, when you're much older, then you'll see it.
Mm.
I was like,
But
oh shit.
Yeah, it's like a very subtle like jab in that sense. It's like very like a little bit sad in that sense,
Yeah.
but I do really like it.
But you gotta live with it. But you don't let it rule your life. You put it in the basement and you feed it once a year.
Mm-hmm.
You feed it with worms for you get the garden.
Mm-hmm.
What was I gonna say? What else have I said? Yeah, no, fucking the second half like puts me on edge and really just like
It
makes
does.
squirm in my seat. They
Like
Essie Davis' performance, that's where it's at. And she just gets worse and worse and worse
that,
as the film goes on.
she does such an amazing job. I'm trying to think about like, is she
I
in
saw.
anything else I've like see? Oh, she was in Australia. Never mind. No.
Oh, wait, what? Was she?
That's funny.
Yeah, as fucking Catherine. Who the fuck is
Who was that?
Catherine?
Let me have a look at this. As the Australia expert, I'm gonna have to take a look at this.
She was also in fucking Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolution as
Who's
Maggie.
Catherine? I don't remember Catherine in
I don't remember either.
Australia.
She was also in Assassin's Creed.
That's funny.
Hold on, let's have a look here. Essie Davis, Catherine. I think that was one of the wives in the second half of the film.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's why I don't remember it, because I fucking hate that second half. Oh my god. Fuck Australia so much.
I
Ugh.
mean, at least they gave us Neil Fletcher. Great villain.
Fucking shut up! Who? Who?
He's so-
Who is that? Oh my!
David Wenham's character.
Who?
David Wenham's character.
Who?
Australia is one of the worst films of all time.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
One of the worst films of all time.
No, it
What
isn't. You know it isn't.
It really isn't.
Well,
I can't even say that. It's bad, but it's not one of the worst movies of all
If
time.
you personally believe that is real, that's perfectly fine. But I would not say it is.
We all know it's true. You just can't accept. You guys.
Nah.
Okay, which is worse,
Nah,
The Lion King
it's-
2019 or Australia?
Australia, I would take over like 2019.
What? Get out of here, man.
No, he said he would take it
Yeah.
over Lion King
I said
2019.
I would take Australia over it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Good.
Fuck you off with that gift. Jesus.
Is it? I'm not looking in chat. I'm not looking in chat. Anyway,
I'm gonna
do we have any more to say?
I was gonna check. It's on Letterboxd at least.
Mhm.
There's very mixed reception to this film, which
Yeah.
I didn't expect. And from what I can gauge, most of the complaints are of Sam, and the fact that it's not like they turn the monster into a metaphor. I don't know.
That's
Or
dumb.
maybe they just. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really source many strong ones outside of the kid is annoying, and
Yeah,
it's
it
not
seems
scary
like that's just
enough.
a lot of the complaining, and it feels like you did not pay attention to the movie if you think that.
Yeah.
Like
And
straight
they
up.
say, "Oh, it's not scary enough." I was like, "But it is pretty scary. It's just not conventionally scary to
Yeah.
the genre."
That's what makes it so
Nope.
unique. That's what I
Plus,
find
like,
cool about
and
it.
plus, like horror, like subjective in the first place, which is like it's like when it comes to what scares you personally, like it shouldn't matter that much if it scares you. It matters if like the experience is still interesting,
Yeah.
like I don't know. That's just a really shallow way to look at it if it doesn't personally scare you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
I don't get why they thought that, but they're stupid, and we should just ignore them.
There's-
Because it's such a basic argument. Like, who actually gives a fuck? Because if you actually pay attention to the movie, the kid's pretty good. He's amazing in it. I don't know what else he's been in, but he was good in it.
I don't think it was in anything else that way.
Fuck.
No, I've looked. He's only been in two things: this and something else.
The
Yeah,
Mirror.
'cause it's a short film, and I'm guessing it's just like a random short film like that. So like.
That's
He
so
hasn't really gotten a
sad,
chance,
though.
like, he's got. I'm sure, like, I hope someday he gets like more roles, but like some child actors just get like one role and that's kind of it, And it's always a sad thing.
He's great in this. He really plays an annoying kid very well, but also I guess that's not as appealing. Hold up, I
Yeah.
just checked Letterboxd. YMS gave Uzumaki a 5 out of 10.
I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna kill myself. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Give it lower. Lower. Lower.
What
Lower.
the fuck is Venom 3 10 out of 10 doing on my fucking timeline? Get out.
What? What? Oh, fucking this Grug.
Yeah, we're not getting into this, man. But yeah, any more else?
I think we just about covered everything. No, it's just a
Yeah.
solid film. I think
Yeah.
it's great. It's genuinely, I think it's amazing. It's one of like the best modern horrors of the last decade.
I
Yeah,
would
it's
never say
great.
that, yeah.
It's great.
You know, okay, so originally, up until we had this long,
Okay,
conversation,
wait.
I was
Okay,
thinking,
what was our ratings?
Oh yeah,
I
let's
was
do
gonna-
ratings.
that's exactly that's what I was leading to. I was originally going to go with a 7 out of 10, but throughout this conversation, I've grown more and more, and now it's an 8 out of 10.
Hey,
I
I've
give
grown on
it
it.
an 8. Yeah. Do we
I
all
like
agree it's an
suppressing
8?
word. Yeah,
Fuck. Wait,
It's
Ikra,
great.
you give it an 8, right?
I don't know. See, I gave it an 8 originally when I first watched it last year. I don't know. It might go to a 9. I'm not sure yet.
Fair enough.
that's fair.
Definitely, it's a high 8. We'll put it like
I
that.
I
Cool.
get why people like this movie. I get why people like this movie a lot. And I definitely do respect it a lot, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. All the people who say it's
Honestly,
fine or bad or
cool movie.
stupid. So yeah.
Yeah. It's honestly cool. It honestly is cool. A cool movie, genuinely.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That
Um,
it should be the
Love
end.
it.
Should be the end.
Yeah.
But
No, we should have wrapped up.
should wrap it up. But
we got one more.
We got one
this
more.
this one is
I'll
the
introduce
surprise
this.
one.
So this was not
Okay.
meant to be part of the podcast, and I've said this multiple times. But The Substance 2024, directed by Corley. I forget how to say this. Hold on, I'm gonna say it.
Target.
Fargate. I think that's how you say it because
I'm gonna look it up.
Farjet. Yeah,
Hey, I was right.
yeah. Corel Farjet. She's only made one other movie, Revenge, in 2017, and this is The Substance.
Yeah, this is their second debut.
This is
After that,
Their second
And,
debut after that. It was released by Mubi, and it's been the hot talk as probably one of the few modern body horror movies, explicitly body horror, and generally the
Like one of the
concept
best of the year.
is it's called one of the best movies of the year. It's labeled as a satirical body horror comedy. It was written, directed, and co-produced by her as well. Follows famous celebrity Demi Moore, who uses a black market drug known as a substance that creates a much younger version of herself, Margaret Quality, with unexpected side effects, is the vague description on it. And that's kind of what the marketing was doing. When I was hearing about it, a lot of it was spread around during Cannes and TIFF, I think, mainly due to the Midnight Madness showings. And there was a lot of buzz around how explicit and gory and weird it is. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. Because we don't get much body horror nowadays. It's a very niche subgenre. But it's definitely produced some great works, Cronenberg mainly. And that's... And also, Reanimator, technically, in a way. That was like way more leaning to the horror comedy aspect. But yeah.
Sounds like it's like Tetsuo the Iron Man, and then there's like
Yeah.
in like other mediums like Junji Ito with like their works with like stuff like Uzumaki or Tomie, if you know those.
Yeah.
You probably don't, but you could probably there's a good chance maybe you do, but like there's just like a huge like
I don't.
subgenre. Like I wasn't expecting a grade.
And it's and everyone says like 9, 10, so it's like very excited to watch it. And now after all the shock and all the hype around its initial theatrical release, did pretty well. It's on digital and it's soon gonna come to Mubi soon, I think, on Halloween night.
Yeah.
And we have the all of us have the controversial take that it's actually it's not good.
Hey! leads.
It is fucking garbage. It's bad.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone loved this. I'm surprised. Well, actually, no, I kind of understand why, but like, I don't see it. I think people who love this movie, I think we watched a completely different movie, because this is not good. Not in any sort of sense. I think it's kind of a fucking mess, and it's very repetitive, very
Yeah.
goofy, tonally weird. Its influences are they
Way too, they're too clear cut.
too
It
clear
doesn't do
cut, and
enough.
also those influences did much better stuff. This feels outdated, and it also feels
Yeah.
like very just comedically stupid. And as a comedy, it's not really that funny. As a horror thing, it's
It's kind
kind
of
of
cringe. It's
impressive,
kind of cringe.
and it all just doesn't mesh together in a cohesive movie. It feels kind of like loose fucking ideas, and it doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
I don't I don't know. I don't think this director had I feel like they just did whatever, and since the main two actresses, they were locked in with it. They're just like, yeah, let's go with this, and it's a big swing, and I can appreciate big swings, but
But like,
this is
one
a
that
bad
misses
movie.
hard. It misses hard.
This is
That's
such a bad movie, and
when it comes
yeah, I don't know, it's bad.
when it comes to my thoughts, like some like starting thoughts. I up to the release, I was really excited for this movie. Like really excited because like I love body horror stuff.
Mm,
I find it to be probably the genre that gets under my skin the most, and the one I find most interesting when it comes to like the idea when it comes to like losing yourself, because like with other horror, like it was just kind of like trying to escape from something, but you
yeah.
can't escape from yourself when it comes to when your skin's literally working against you, and
Mm,
that's what I find so interesting about it. It's because of that sort of inescapability of it.
yeah.
So, so obviously with me, like being at least like dipping my
And
toes a fair
it's just
amount
like,
into that
yeah, it's just
stuff.
like that general idea. Like, horror's always been like about the fragility of our bodies, because we can so easily be massacred in so many different ways, and that's kind of what's body horror gets to the core of. And it can also bring a lot of like thematic stuff, mainly through sexual and like technological themes. It can
Yeah,
really
which
explore a lot
Cronenberg
of
works
things.
on.
Which Cronenberg is basically on top with that shit. He is great at the body horror stuff early on in his career, before like 2000 when he took that shift. But he was very good at it. He was
Yeah,
very
there was
good
stuff
at
like
it.
Videodrome and even Scanners.
The
Like there was fucking
Fly, Dead
Fly.
Ringers. It's technically the least body horror like one, but it's
But
cool.
it's still like in that category, kind
Yeah.
of. But like
Mm.
he like was like on top for a while with that stuff. So like hearing about this, what comes like a sort of return to form of that, made me really excited.
Mm.
But like as the film went on, as the further it went, the more repetitive it got, the more I realized how much it wasted this idea when it comes to that double life angle. When it comes to like the fact that like by the end it just contradicted its own rules and just start doing just bullshit that just doesn't make
What rules did it contradict? I'm
fucking
curious.
uh mainly like bringing to life fucking the other girl somehow like that. I don't get
Oh
how
yeah.
that works and how that even happened, which
Mm.
we'll get to that as well later when it comes to, like that shit. But like just in general, like it just feels so, it's such a wasted concept to me. That's so cruel to me when it comes to like the amount of potential you can do with this concept.
Yeah.
And I just by the end I was left really upset, frustrated, and I just was just not happy. I was not happy with it at all. You ain't
Um.
critic?
Yeah. There you go.
What was it?
What about
Your
you,
turn.
Iconic?
Well, I'd seen the trailer like 5 times in like the last few months. I wasn't that fussed on it. I thought like, oh, well, I can kind of see what this film is gonna do based on the trailer.
Mm.
It's gonna be about unrealistic body standards,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'll hear this out.
Mm.
And I saw all the positive reviews. Everyone says, "Oh man, this thing's so fucking sick, man! You gotta see this movie in the cinema, man." I was like, oh, I probably will. And most people I knew gave it positive ratings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I saw it. I saw it literally last night. I went to the cinema last night to go see it.
We literally almost watched it last night for the record. That's
Yeah.
the funniest part.
It's a funny
Yeah,
thing.
no, it's properly fresh in our minds. We're very on the ball today for the dubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I went to the cinema. I enjoyed. I was invested in the film for like the first hour, and then it keeps going, and then it keeps going, and it kind of just keeps getting very repetitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the end, like once like the shock and the horror and like the stuff, once that all like dissipates, you're walking home after the cinema. I got like a 10-minute walk from the cinema back to my house. From that 10-minute walk, it just died down and just putting some food on the go. I was like, what was that film trying to? What was the juice behind this film other than just the shock and awe of the last hour?
Yeah. Yeah.
As I was stirring my soup, I was like, what? Where was the sauce? What's going on here? That was my main problem. That's my main problem with the film. Though I know you guys have other problems. My main problem with the film is that it doesn't have anything new or
Well, yeah, we also think
insightful
that.
to say that people already don't know.
Yeah, it feels like the movie already says everything it needed to within the first 40 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But it's not even the I feel like this whole concept could have been like expanded on so easily, but they decided to do nothing with it. And even the basis of it feels really weird because there's this whole thing where you are one, you are a singular person still, despite creating this new body, and it feels like they don't explore that enough. And
Very like confusing when it comes to, like,
yeah, because
like,
they're trying to say the same conscious, but also they're not. And it's like, okay, then what is fucking Demi Moore getting out of this? Because it's meant to be her to be a better person, but I guess the whole thing is she feels better in this body, but it's not even that because she later resents it. So then what is exactly the thing going on? Alright, so they are two separate consciences, and she hates her, and so what exactly is her problem now?
That's one thing.
What is her goal anymore?
That's one thing right off the bat. They should have made this disassociation more clear, because that was something I was very confused by, and I remember you being confused. Silver was confused as well. We were all confused when it comes to how that exactly works. And
and metaphorically, it's just a mess still because. Okay, do you want to go for one consciousness and how maybe you could go for the idea where it's like you cannot separate yourself from either your past or really your ugliness and how that kind of vacantness can create a monster. And it's like, okay, easy, maybe a 90-minute movie that could work, but this is a 2-hour, 20-minute movie where it keeps going on and on about something, and it's the same exact idea. And if we're not doing that, then why don't we do the other thing where it's just like, okay, they're two separate consciousness, and it's like I created you, and it's like feels like she has some sort of ownership. You could have gone into that, and how she like desperately is using her as a vacant vehicle to like project her feelings onto like this ideal version of herself. That could be the angle they go for. They don't do that.
Well, they mention in the film, they keep mentioning it many times in the film when she's on the call to the people who provide the substance. It's like, oh yeah, she keeps doing all these things to me, and they keep explicitly saying, no, you are one. You are the same person. It's just, your minds just swap bodies.
So you could have done something with that where it's like, this is like two of them are separating their own behaviors. Like this one, they behave like this, but internally, like all those like repressed like feelings and thoughts go into the other girl. And they could have done that, but they didn't do that either. So what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out as well is one thing in which I was really disappointed by was the relationship angle with the film. It was the other characters. Every other character. Well, the main character was already super shallow, and there's nothing to them really. Is the thing. It's like we get to titular substance 15, 20 minutes in. But so we barely get to know anything about her. But all the other characters For me, it's one thing that's interesting is about body horror is that the idea when it comes to how interacting with the rest of humanity in that sense, every single character in this movie is just there's nothing to them. they're just like a goofy character, or like there's literally like barely any like sort of like relationships or like any sort of like actual like bonds or like interesting like dynamics at play that can like make those conflicts interesting. No, there's nothing, none of that. There's none of that to like
everyone's a cartoon character.
Mm-hmm.
But then people will say, "Oh, but it's a satire. It's meant to be like not realistic."
I feel like what I love
satires that are written properly with like real characters.
What I love about satires like South Park or something is that it has these inherently goofy concepts, but as you like break into it, you start to realize all the mechanisms of it and how you can break that down and how that goes into a larger commentary on something. But it feels like this movie is so focal on this. All these characters represent this one message, so therefore they're all goofy, and therefore nothing is expanded upon, and that's why it feels so repetitive, because you're simply hearing the same shit within this obvious message, and there's comedically funny moments, but you cannot keep that up for 2 hours and 20 minutes of pure unadulterated like sensory overload. And I've heard some interpretations about the movie where it's like the fact that it gets grosser and grosser and the more desensitized you get is kind of like meant to be a part of the experience, that like, oh, the more desensitized I get, it's like the more you are starting to like I guess like be within the same wavelength as them. It's like, oh, you're kind of like implicit in this as well, and you're just kind of like you are simply accepting this, and then eventually it's like if it's not like scary to you, then therefore it becomes funny, and it's like it's not even that funny.
Yeah, because a lot of humor, just comes across as like too like in your face to a point where it's just like obnoxious.
I think inversely to Babadook, the sound design is fucking atrocious sometimes. I think the sound choices are just like the soundtrack, the sound choices, they all feel very, very in your face, and it doesn't feel like it's appropriate. And it works for the first couple times, but they have no patience. They just keep doing it.
Yeah, there's no patience. That's the thing. The film is so breakneck a lot of the time. Is the weird thing. Like, you don't get the time to really, like, wallow in anything. In fact, the thing is, like, so many, like, the sequences when, like, she's in, like, one body or the other, it's just, like, so segmented in, like, these montages where it just skips through everything. We don't see any like, her relationships building with, like, other, like, coworkers in terms of, like, how that's, like, working together, It's just, like, it's just, like, she's, like, becoming higher and higher in, like, the scales of, like, popularity in this other body. Oh, no. In the other body, she's such a sad slump, But, like, it doesn't work together. It doesn't work because, like, it just feels like it's not meaningful enough for that screen time in order to, like, really believe that, Like, it's so lame to me in that regard. I don't like that. It's like it just feels like it just cheapens things when it comes to that tension that like horror is like built on in a way.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
this is what I read about like what people interpreted like the sensory overload with it. It's like by being big and boisterous and in your face, I think it's designed to bring out a strange sort of empathy in all of its viewers. This includes empathy. And this includes men, most of whom will review the film can viscerally feel what Elizabeth is experiencing as she's tearing her face off when she is preparing for her date. One of the things I loved about the film is that the message is obvious. It's like in the climate that seems to value films more for their complexity and the viewer's ability to tease out the meaning, the substance is right there blasting, which it's trying to say in your face. Just like how society and media just constantly bombard us with messages about how we as women are never good enough, pretty enough, young enough, etc. It's like I can kind of get the idea, but I don't think it needs to extend for as long as it does.
Yeah, exactly.
I was about to say that's my favorite part of the film. It's that bit where she's trying to go on the date with Fred, but she keeps going back to the mirror and reapplying her makeup. That's the best part of the film. It's just this quiet, like 3-minute bit. Mm-hmm. Don't need to say anything. There's nothing popping up on screen. Just watching the scene.
That popping up on screen thing, I was gonna bring that up.
The flash. It's such flashback. Like I said, this is the TikTokification of like a Cronenberg movie. No one has any patience for anything, and if it's designed to not be patient, if it's meant to be an antithesis to that, then okay. But I feel like you should still trust the viewer in remembering stuff that happened an hour ago or a couple minutes ago. I don't know why we need to like.
That was so obnoxious to me when like that started happening. Where it's just like, we remember this shit. You don't need to like, when we see, because like we already see like fucking like, because like when he drops in the puddle, and like it's like I had all those marks, which is like we can already recognize that. But then when there's a fucking like literal like fucking like border with like the guy's face, just showing up, being all like saying what he said before, like that was
Yeah.
so obnoxious to me. That was so obnoxious to me because it just has no faith in like having the audience have any context clues for like what happened earlier. It's so spoon feeding to me, and it's so annoying, and it happens like through like 3 or 4 times I think throughout the film. Like about
Okay,
like,
if this movie is trying to bring the sensory overload in order to like make us empathize with these characters, why aren't the characters like anything meaningful? It feels like the film should slow down at some point and like get into like a scene like that where she's like reapplying her makeup over and over again. Because I feel like early on we had all those implications about how she has all these insecurities about aging, and it feels like people are like inflating the idea of the aging in the film because as much as it is an apparent theme and they enforce saying that theme, there's no behavior that shows like what that theme means to the characters. Because it just feels to me, it's just like it's applying the same characteristic and logic to everything. Where it's like, I just need to be popular. I need to be more popular. And it's like,
well, you don't know why.
what else?
We don't know what that means to her. We don't know her relationships with anyone. So, like,
And
really
also, she loses her job as like the fitness exercise position, and then she goes to when she gets her extra body, she just applies for the same job again. I was like, don't you want to do like something different?
yeah, that's something I was thought about too. Like, why not like? Maybe it's just like she was really comfortable in that position, but like, why not try to like get like a because like there were probably like other openings when it comes like certain like job.
Oh,
like,
so what's
acting. Like,
there's something early on I noticed, like the whole extra body thing. It's like that's blatantly out in the open. And
like,
also, she has cleaning maids. She has cleaning maids. We see that early on. I don't know what happened to them. They're gone.
Yeah, they never mentioned that. That's the thing. They never mentioned that. Like once again, it feels like the relationships are like completely like unfocused on every single time. In the
Because
film.
everyone else is a cartoon character, like Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid's my favorite part of the film outside of the makeup scene.
Yeah, but like the thing is, like he's barely in the film, and like we don't really know his deal, because like anything how he feels on shit. So it's just like
He's meant to be like the slimy, lecherous producer, but he's just too silly and too funny.
He's too
He's
fucking
such
silly.
a character. I love his metal heels and his boots.
Have you seen the fucking shit? Do you remember the shrimp scene?
The shrimp scene is so gross. I think that's the grossest part of the movie. Like honestly,
He's gross. That's the whole point. They want to show how gross he is because he can't eat shrimp because he leaves a mess on the table.
Yeah.
He puts the rest of like the remains on the fucking salad. Like that is gross. Like why are you like the way you are?
Because he's an evil producer.
And his name is also Harvey. Let's fucking oh my god.
I don't even remember if they say his name in the film. I just learned that after the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. But like, he's not like Harvey Weinstein at all. He's too camp. He's too out there. He's too boisterous. He's not like a lech.
He's not slick, with like the way
He's
he
not
like.
slick. He's not slick.
He's just so like out there, and like the fucking first scene where like they show like the fucking like that one like shot where it's like she goes to the bathroom, and then like he comes in and just like fucking goes right in the face,
Like the camera while he's at the urinal.
Like they clearly want you to like be as like grossed out and like feel weird by him as possible. Which like I think is like an interesting technique, but like they don't do anything with him.
Yeah, and he doesn't do much in the film anyway.
Yeah.
There's no pushback on him at all for anything other than kicking her out of her job at the start of the film. Like nothing after that. But maybe that's the whole point. Maybe that's the whole point. When you're pretty, people will just fall over you to do anything for you. Like the next door neighbor, door neighbor Oliver, when she answers the door as Sue, and he's like bitching and moaning on the other side of the wall, like, can you keep it down? I'm gonna sleep at night. And then when the door opens, he's like, whoa, hey, hello, what's your name? Goes full Gooter mode.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is just like kind of forgets that goofy characters can have like deeper meanings, but like they're so implicitly just like the exact form. It feels like you can have a surface level thing where it's just like they represent this, but as you dive more into them, there's more layers to it, or the way they speak, or the way they do something. But we don't get enough of it because it feels the film is so isolated on the idea of this certain message. It feels like it doesn't expand its horizons despite being an over 2 hour long movie. And another thing is
They made it an extra hour longer.
another thing that was mentioned in a review by Will Sloan that we read yesterday was like kind of the whole thing where is this like it feels like it's kind of bordering on like grindhouse shit, because the thing about the movie is it feels like it hates its main character, and it doesn't feel like it really does sympathize with her at all because it's so comedically just like laughing at the audience. It doesn't feel like it has any way to say anything meaningful. It's not trying transgressive or anything. It's simply blatantly like beauty standards are messed up, and this is a bad person who's using this bad thing. It's like he doesn't bring up a good point. They never make fun of the substance, like people behind them. They just have like obvious advertisement that's like making fun of like modern corporations, but beyond that, they don't.
We never meet them. We never understand like what's in it for them.
Dive into
like
the ethics.
Why they're doing it.
We never dive into the ethics of it. I thought this movie, when I first saw screenshots of it, was gonna be more noirish, where you kind of like.
I thought it was too.
I was gonna be like a neo noir, kind of like similar to Mulholland Drive, where you're like diving into the underbelly of like Hollywood. But you know, this director is not David Lynch, so and also they are.
I mean, you don't have to be David Lynch to be a neo noir.
Yeah, well,
but like David Lynch in terms
David
of like
Lynch is a fucking genius compared to this, like easily. Like this is not even like a competition. We shouldn't even mention it. He doesn't deserve to be listed amongst this fucking movie because it is so much more surface level than anything that Lynch has ever fucking done. And it feels so misappropriate because you have all these influences, but they get none of them right and any of the complexities right, because you have, of course, the body horror aspects, you have like certain surreal aspects, but you don't have like the complexity to dive more into that message because you're so implicit on this very specific, everything has to surround this specific message that this is bad. There's no nuance to anything that's presented because it's all because it reminds me of like a lot of like goofy comedies in the same way there's a lot of like really really horrific horror grindhouse movies. They're very implicitly on the idea like, oh, look how horrific this is, or look how funny this is, and it feels like this kind of meshes it all together, combines a bunch of influences that are way more complex than the actual movie, and it creates this weird fucking creature, kind of like the ending of this movie where we get the mixture of all the fucking subdivided like people in just like one massive blob. It's kind of the same way. It was just like, it doesn't make any sense. It has no formal complexity. It's just blatant. And it's like, if that's part of the message, they could have even done the blatant shit more cleverly, but they didn't. So it really fails from all angles from the way people are interpreting the movie and what I've read about it. So I don't get it at all. Like,
I was gonna say I wanted to point something out.
Yeah.
When they go to like the deposit area where the guys who make the substance, or they drop it off.
Yeah.
It's the white room with like the lockers. There's only like 10 lockers.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I thought, all right, you want to go talk about the quote unquote unrealistic body standards in Hollywood. Why is that whole room not? Why is that film room not full of lockers? And then like as you go on into the film, maybe we find out that maybe her co-stars on the aerobics show, they're all people who've taken the substance as well. They're the old people who were with her when she did the show when she was Elizabeth, but they've all taken the substance too.
It feels like the film's trying to be more intimate by focusing on these two, but it spends too long on that. I feel like, you need something like a different perspective in order to keep it interesting, especially for as long as this movie is.
I get a sort of different perspective with like that, that one surgeon that's revealed to be like, he's also taking a substance.
He's more like just a herring into the plot of the movie.
Oh yeah, the doctor guy.
Yeah.
But like,
I keep forgetting what his point is in the film, other than just to get her into it.
It's just like a foreboding.
My question is, why did he fucking how did he get into it to begin with? Because how did he get connected into like everything in terms like that?
I don't know, because they never explain it. He just did.
Also, I found it interesting. It's like, if we're talking about beauty standards in Hollywood, it's like, we have all that deep internal hatred. That's what this movie is all about. Deep internal fucking hatred of your own body.
Yeah,
it feels like the whole movie is just a self-loathing, just kind of like extremist movie until you realize like how all funny it is, how all goofy it is, and we have all this splatter shit going on. But it feels like the movie doesn't get into like really the main true reality of everything. Because the thing about satire is like, as goofy as it can get, it has to get to the core of something real. But this movie doesn't get into the core of anything real. It just gets into the core of its very simplistic message. It's like, where's the paparazzi in this? Why didn't anyone follow her while she was like walking around? Like, even though she's a washed up actor, it doesn't mean everyone ignores her. There's complexity to it.
It's more with that. You know, I pointed, well, like what I think about saying, like it feels like it's so uninterested in like focusing in terms of, like any of these people as like characters. In terms of, like what's going on with them. And
like I saw the excuse. I saw the excuse. So it's like, it's not really about Hollywood. Then why are you putting the Hollywood angle in it? If there's nothing to do with it, if it's more just about the general horrors.
Set in L.A. She's an aerobics daytime TV person.
I don't know how that makes her the most famous person in the world, but that's...
I don't know. Yeah, it said she won an Oscar, and she has like a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Oh, that whole opening made it more clear. It's like, this could be the most obvious movie in retrospect. It's like, you'll be forgotten, and like your stars will start to crack, and your facade will start to be revealed, and it's like...
Yeah, the fucking when he dropped the burger like that was like, kind of when I was like, okay, that's a bit much. That's a bit much.
Oh, when he dropped the burger and all the red sauce goes all over it, and then look at the ending of the film.
Yeah.
It all comes full circle. It all comes full circle.
It's so stupid.
That's the thing. It's not full circle in a clever way. It's just very corny and stupid.
Just like, if we're supposed to be diving into that fame, it's like, it's more than just like your reputation will die. It's like, there's so much more to that. Like, there's so many real cases you could base this off on. Britney Spears, all these other celebrities that went through tough shit, but they don't do any of that. They do nothing with that.
Or even Demi Moore, who disappeared off the face of the earth and then came back for this film. That this was supposed to jumpstart her career.
Yeah, it feels like people are inflating that fact too much. Like, oh, this is like, she's trying to make a message about like how she felt about her career, and it's like, yeah, but there's no really meta text to it. It's just like, she's there and she's playing the character, and that reflects a general sphere around like Hollywood and beauty standards. So it's not really that much of a meta text to add onto it. It's just kind of a thing that happens to be there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what people were complaining about that either. It felt very just... discussion around this movie feels so demeaning and just kind of like basic. It's like Baby's first Cronenberg, Baby's first commentary. It's like,
because like another thing about like what comes like the premise, it's sort of similar to like the film Seconds. I don't know if neither of you have seen it yet. I'm pretty sure.
I've not seen it.
That film was like that film was pretty much about this guy, who is also like aging, and like he's given a chance, and like in order to change his entire appearance, in order to be younger and like be given a new life. The life that I wanted to have,
Yeah.
And like for me, like that's sort of like even though at first like I had some issues with that, but like now I'm realizing that is like what I wanted more when it comes to the substance, when it comes to like the way that he builds new relationships with like the new people that he finds through that, in terms of like how he's like having that sort of like dysphoria because of that he doesn't know He's not actually a young person, so he can't relate to these people, And that's such an interesting like idea with the way that film like this deconstructs that, But like in the substance, they don't even like acknowledge like when it comes to like her trying to like have relationships with anyone, because like she never once makes any like actual any meaningful bonds. Like she has like
she tries to go on the date with Fred, but then it never goes anywhere because she just stays home.
Yeah, but like also like with that, it's like we don't know anything about like any of the people that like she meets, or like how she feels on them, So it's just like there's no sort of like actual like cautionary like angle to that.
Yeah, it feels like they introduce like also like the whole like going into her past, but then that never really makes up much of anything except for that decent enough scene where she's just like repeatedly putting on her makeup. There's not much depth to it. And also it's comedically stupid because he's like, I don't have like ID or anything, and he doesn't have like a card or anything, so he starts writing on this paper, drops it in the water, dirty water, then gives it back to her as if that makes any sense. Like as much as you like probably want to fucking like fuck her or some shit, I don't think you can ever. It's so ridiculous. It doesn't feel at all real. It just feels like...
See, the thing with him is that it's like he's the guy who knows her from school when they were like younger and everything. and he still thinks she's beautiful and attractive, and he likes her for how she is now. And they don't ever really capitalize on it. There's a chance where
true.
they could have done it where she goes on the date, but then that's just compounded with the makeup scene, and then he just never appears in the rest of the film.
Yeah, I felt that too.
He
And
was great. I liked Fred. He was nice. He's a king.
too bad he was only appears for like fucking 2 minutes, man. Like there's
Yeah.
literally nothing to base off on, and it's just it's hard to really say all too much because it is just like these are super general points, but it just applies to everything going on in the movie. It just applies to everything because it is pretty much rinse and repeat. You're basically seeing the same shit, the same message, same everything, and yeah, it has a cool presentation, but it becomes just straight up obnoxious by the end.
Yeah,
Just like a certain other film from last year that I won't mention.
Poor Things.
No, not Poor Things.
Oh, what are you referring to? Just say it.
No, I won't. Never mind.
It's Zone of Interest, right?
Moving forward.
Yeah, so it is.
Fuck you.
So it is. Fuck
Zone
you,
of
man. Fuck
Zone
you.
of Interest was a better film, by the way.
Fuck
Just
you.
want to make that clear.
Fuck you.
Just want to make that clear.
Fuck you. Kill yourself.
I can like. I'm telling you right now, you're critic. I'm on the verge of like rewatching that just to fucking like devastate you. I hope you know that. I'm just
I believe the word you're searching for is eviscerate me.
Yeah. Well, you get the point. Still, you get the fucking point. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Unlike Zone of Interest, this movie doesn't really dive into different aspects of that same theme. It just feels like, oh, you get it? She's trying to like cover up her like this sort of because the body, it represents like every time it fucks up, it's just like she's trying to hide the fact that her all her imperfections and stuff. It's like it gets to a point where just like it feels like this movie is meant to be just like simulating the experience of a woman and feeling like how improper you are. But it feels like this movie is doing way too much for that, and it spends too long on it. It feels like it's both trying
but it also doesn't do enough. It's weird.
It's trying to generalize everything. It's trying to like talk about all these different topics, but at the same time, it's also trying not to. It's trying to focus on this certain experience and sensory experience. But I feel like if you want to just do that, just simplify to like maybe an hour 30. Like it's pretty
hour
easy
and a
to do
half.
that.
Or like half an hour short is what I've heard some people say.
Yeah.
Just like a 30-minute short.
Never mentioned that, and like honestly, like if it was a 30-minute short, it would be perfect. Honestly, it's like just like a cool, creepy concept that's like taken to like extremes in like a short amount of time. Like that's fun. I feel like it'd be short, sweet, and like to the point.
You probably
But, like,
could make a movie about this that could be 2 hours and
you
21
could. I'm
minutes.
just saying,
But it's just
you're gonna
like
do it like this. You're gonna do it
Yeah.
like this. Do it for 30 minutes. Don't do it for 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah, because
Like,
obviously this person's not experienced enough to even do that. It feels like it doesn't feel like everything is like paced out well. It feels like just like kind of keep moving forward and forward, and it's like if that's part of like the genius of it is like it doesn't work. It just doesn't, and we've hinted towards that ending, but that whole ending is so bad because she's just turning into this large fucking creature.
let me explain a bit like how like
Homunculus.
Basically,
How
what
the-
happened
how-
is like the whole progression of everything's weird because she starts off you can only do it like 7 times a week, then you have to switch back because that's all we have enough for the feeding, and then eventually we get delivered again. In the meantime,
You get refills.
yeah, but the first hint of something bad is like Margaret Qualley brings home this guy, and then wants to have sex with him, but she notices something wrong, so she quickly takes something out of her, just have an extra day, and it's just like it fucks her up. And this is where it all starts because basically you're addicted to being that perfect person, and eventually that sort of dysmorphs her, leaving this huge like vacant like black mold of a hole. And then that becomes the thing where she gets mad at her for like basically taking over her life and having everything that she wanted, and then that leads to them fighting over it, and then like she tries to suppress it, basically hiding it, and then eventually it starts to consume her. It's like, okay, I gotta do something real quick, and then eventually that leads to her birthing the fucking blob creature because of how she basically misused her supplies and stuff. And I like that idea, but it goes on for so long. It's like, okay, you introduce it. The 2001 music is like,
Yeah, that
it's a
was so
big
corny to me as
creature,
well. Between
I
and
was like,
then
oh, okay, all right. I think I'm tapping out now.
yeah, and then it's just
Yeah.
like, it's that big massive creature, and then only now they all start screaming. It's like massive creature, and then everyone starts like fighting over her. It's like, oh, I can't believe this, and then eventually that leads to her spilling her guts all over everything. And it's like this big like blood orgy thing where everyone's like running into each other and like covered in blood and all this stuff happens and it's like a sensory overload. And then that's the end of the movie.
But and then
Well,
like
no, that's not. Well, there's an extra little bit.
Yeah.
yeah, where she fucking like as the last like small part of her.
Yeah, no,
she crawls
she
a while.
things start birthing and then one of them is like this weird like the thing looking creature and it crawls over to her star and shapes into it. And that was the stupidest. I knew I was like, this is the worst thing ever.
Such a corny ending on so many. I keep on saying corny, but like that's how a lot of this movie turns with its messaging. What goes like how it does things. It's corny.
It's so
It's,
it's so visceral, but so surface level. Fuck, it is.
Yeah,
So,
but it also just doesn't have anything new to say about. Like, what is it saying? Is like avoid plastic surgery and Botox and all those things. Like, be comfortable in your own skin, I guess. But then it also just says, "Oh, you're shit and ugly. You're shit and you can't do shit when you're old." So, like, what's going on here?
yeah, it feels like it portrays old as like evil, as some sort of evil that they're
Yeah.
avoiding, and it doesn't feel like it brings any nuance to
But
that.
then it's also like, oh, if you want to keep pretending to be young, that's also evil. So, like, what the fuck here? That's why you need to go down the Fred angle. You need to take the Fred angle, but he's just dropped after the date bit.
It feels like the whole conceit is like, oh, no matter what you do, you're evil for trying to be better. It feels like this movie is not sympathetic to anyone, unlike the previous two movies we talked about. It doesn't have a sympathetic eye. Even though this is a female gaze movie, it does not sympathize with this, with what
I
they're
wouldn't say
doing.
it was female. I don't know about female gays, I'll be honest.
like the thing is like it's
Think about the amount of ass in this film, man.
I know, but it's a director, but like at the same time, like it does like indulge
I feel with
so
that.
much.
I feel like with that, it's just like showing how perfect their bodies are and how generally they feel much better about themselves, and eventually that morphs into just like deep hatred. It's like it feels like this movie just self-loathes and like demonizes everyone for trying to do something, and then it doesn't really know what message it's trying to make. It's just like demonizing this. It's like what new thing are you trying to say about this? It feels like you understand, okay, body standards are bad via represented by the visuals, but it feels like there's no given reason, there's no culture that's represented here. It feels like you need to know the culture before you get into the movie. You literally have to fill in the gaps for the movie instead of the movie actually presenting anything new or hinting towards like context. Like some movies they hint towards historical context, but you don't necessarily they don't necessarily like yap about like how this movie is actually related to the 20th century event of known as blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You just get
you keep it
implications of
timeless so that it's always has meaning.
So
for, like,
you can keep it both
years
timeless.
after.
You can keep it timeless, but also a capsule of that time period as well. You can do both. Many movies have done that, and I don't understand how you fuck this up because it is not that hard to give more context as to the culture of like beauty standards. Because you get the general idea. People don't like her because she's old and that she's wrinkly and that she feels bad about herself. And I get it. It nails down some of that personal experience about like feeling uncomfortable in your own body. But besides that, if we're talking in this relation to Hollywood culture, it doesn't dive into that. And all the fans that she does have, we don't dive into that. We don't dive into Fred. We don't dive into any of these aspects. It lays out a bunch of these details that you can fill the gaps in your head. It's like, oh, this is meant to mean this, but without actually really saying anything. It doesn't say anything at all. It was a waste of time. And yeah, it's like I'm talking general here, but like in relation to these details, it's all relates back to that same thing, the same thing, and I don't get it. I truly don't understand like how anyone really saw this as some sort of genius movie, because to me all I see is a pretty easy message that everyone can understand. Because within this like this time period that we're living in, like people are more open about that sort of thing, about like trying to find body positivity and like what new is this offering? Just because it's
Exactly. If
disgusting,
it came out like 20 or 30 years ago, I feel like it would be great.
yeah.
But yeah, no, coming
But
out now
even
and the
then,
way it does things,
even if we look back on it, it would probably still be outdated anyway. And
possibly,
it
possibly.
probably would, because it's just like that's not. It feels so surface level because you just fill in the gaps based on what you know about culture itself, is without
Yeah.
ever implying like what exact details lead to that. It feels like the filmmaker should lay out where he gets his ideas from without really directly saying so. And well, for certain things, I think obviously a bit of ambiguity adds a lot to a film, but like with this, I feel like you really do need to like dive into that exact culture, but it doesn't really dive into anything because you get all these things about the substance, and like that whole advertisement, it has that exact vibe, and you can imply it's kind of referencing like modern technology, like giants, and it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but you don't
With
dive
the
into that.
minimalist look.
Yeah, and it's like we don't dive into that either. It's just nothing, and the whole
I mean, the substances is
gross.
never even like talked about. Like no one else outside of
Yeah,
Demi Moore knows what it is.
yeah. It feels
I
like
thought
And that
maybe there was
it
gonna
feels
be. I
like
thought maybe there's gonna be some sort of implication that it was connected to Dennis Quaid, but it's not.
maybe it'd be like
So
maybe there should have been like a substance like controversy in like the universe of the world, but they didn't do that either. Feels like it's just like kind of this underground thing that no one knows about. This is why I'm saying like tabloids. Why weren't those involved in any part of this? It feels like you get that general idea of like the whole audience is watching this, but you don't get like a direct perspective on it. So therefore, it feels just like you just gotta fill in the holes based on like imagery of the movie.
mhm.
So what the ultimate thing about this movie is just it's nothing. It's a whole load of just garbage. I don't
It's all style, no substance.
quite literally it is.
Ayo.
It's all this sensory type of experience, but what is the ultimate message of it all? Shit that
nothing.
we've heard for quite a while now. It's already outdated.
Mhm.
And the only reason that it's kind of been in the public eye is because it is as brutal as it is. And I will say, those practical effects are cool. The
They
set
are great.
designing,
They're really.
the set
That's
designing
like
is
what's on
cool.
point Tyler did before is that practical stuff. Like it's real
Yeah, the
good.
set designs, those are cool. Like her whole apartment is really well thought out. I really like
You got the shining carpeting at the
yeah,
studio.
the whole long hallway, the inverse of the shining carpet, and I guess that's cool. And it's a bold movie, but it just doesn't really say anything.
The
It's
actors are good.
it's like write down the message of the movie, and you could write them down one sentence, and then just embolden it, and that's what the movie feels like.
Yep.
Maybe even do italic. Be fucking fancy about it. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's that's pretty
It's
much it.
just no. It's just no juice.
It's it's just such a disappointment on so many levels for me. And
Mhm.
like I was so excited for this. Like I keep on saying that, but like I was genuinely so excited for this. And I thought it was gonna be one of my favorites of the year because of how interesting it looked to me. But it just turned out to be just a whole load of nothing in the grand scheme of things. I
I didn't
guess.
think I'd live in a timeline where I'd say the substance is overrated trash, but it is.
Mm.
Here's why.
Yeah.
So what are your guys' ratings? I'll go first. Wait, do we have anything else to really say at this point? Like,
Since I'd like to add some more because I went to the
okay,
cinema. You guys just watched it on a Discord call. I got a few more things to add about, from the perspective of a cinema goer for this film in particular.
Mm.
Um, so it was a packed screening, packed to the gills.
okay.
A lot of people were grossing. A lot of people were cringing quite a bit in the last half hour, and then a lot of people were laughing as well in the last 10 minutes. Yeah, no, just like for like the first hour, everyone was just in silent, just watching it, and maybe I could hear like some people like tensing up or cringing at like the needles and all sorts, and all the noises and everything. But and then when I was walking out, I was listening to what people were saying. They were like, "What the fuck was that?" Like, "Oh my god, I don't know, but I think I loved it." And I was like, I was still like, I don't normally get like fully shook up by films in a way, but I was genuinely like uncomfortable during that last half hour, and I think it's more so because you guys watching in a Discord call. I was stuck in a cinema for two
That's
hours
fair.
and
That's
20 minutes.
fair.
I was stuck
That
in a
is fair.
cinema for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I couldn't get up. I can't pause it and talk to anyone else about it. I just have to sit there and be held hostage the entire time. I have nowhere else to look. I gotta look straight on at it.
I do
That
wonder
was-
how I would have felt on it if I did watch it in a cinema. Because, like,
I think I just would have been
I don't
weirded
know.
out instead of angry, just like very weirded out on how kind of empty it is.
Yeah. You probably be like me. The high would die down as soon as you get home, and you're like, "Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What
I
was
imagine
what was this film trying to do?"
I imagine that's what would have happened. But
That's probably why I'm more like indifferent, even though I don't like the film that much. I'm more indifferent compared to you guys.
yeah.
And also, I don't know. It seemed like you didn't really like hyped it up that much, but like for us, like as someone who like follows all like the
Well,
festival
there's that
shit,
as well. There's that as well, because I
Follows,
wasn't
like-
expecting anything. You
'Cause
guys were though.
Yeah, I was like hearing about all the festival shit and how much people were really enjoying it and how like weird it is and comparisons to Cronenberg. I was like, all right, I'm down. And well, I mean, here we are. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
My
bad
legs,
on-
my
maybe
legs,
it's
my legs
better
are
off us
shaking at
for-
the end of this film.
I mean, it's bad on us for having expectations for thinking a movie will be good. Not really.
I
though.
mean, I thought Transformers 1 was going to be good, and it turned out to be even better than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, you just got to pick your battles wisely.
The thing is, usually for me, like, I
No, but
know
the trailers
myself
look
pretty
cool.
well.
I thought everyone was saying it was really good. So like, there's an obvious
For
reason
me-
why I would think it would be good. And then
Yeah, and usually for me at least, like, I usually know myself pretty well, so like whenever I
Yeah.
do watch something that like I don't like that I was expecting to like, it stings a lot more, which is like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, today's
It doesn't happen
today's
often.
episode feels like it's just been a load of surprises in terms of like I didn't expect to think about the same way I feel about any of these movies. Like you told me like this is how I feel on Showgirls or this is how I feel on the Babadook, I would not believe you. But yeah, here we are.
especially for substance,
Yeah, I was definitely
like,
not thinking that was gonna happen, but oh well.
oh wow.
Mhm.
But yeah, is that all we have to say? Like, it was like final thoughts.
Crazy night. All of us watching the
My
Substance.
my stomach was churning as I was walking out, and my legs felt weak after the film
That's
ended.
fair. That's fair.
Outside of that, yeah, probably like the most I've been affected physically watching a film.
Mm.
So there's that. That's
Okay.
yeah, no, not much more to say other than Margaret Qualley hit me up at
Shut up.
at a critic.
Go jerk off to like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't care. Like, at least that's a good movie. Jerk off to that. Don't jerk off to like The Substance.
Okay, let's do the ratings then.
All right.
Okay, for me, 3 out of 10.
Yep.
For me, 2 out of 10.
And
2
for
out
you,
of 10.
Craig?
Honestly, I couldn't even. It could go either way. It could go from like a 2, 3, or 4. I just haven't decided yet because I
Alright.
just can't be asked. It's one of those three. It's 2, 3, or 4.
All right. Fair enough. At least you know it's bad. It is kind of
So, yeah,
crazy
yeah.
that we all universally agree on a lot of these movies. It's crazy.
Yeah, see?
Yep.
When usually, like, it's like a war between the three of us. Like,
It's usually a 2v1. Usually I'm on the ropes all the time getting like blasted by these two. But now I've come out on top. I hinted that maybe the Substance I was not really sure about it, and they
Yep.
didn't believe me. They
Yep.
said, "Oh, he was wrong. Oh dear." And then give it like 3 hours, and I was like, "Yes."
Yeah, every fucking Substance message has aged so badly. Fucking
yeah.
one of the server's members was like, I'm so obsessed with this movie. It's so good. A couple days later, gulp. Turns out the entire conversation shifts. It's like, oh, I was gonna hop on this movie a couple days ago, but then you guys said it was bad, and now everything's just like everything has shifted.
Yeah.
It's been
And
wild.
like the thing is, like in the third, what's so funny is that like people get a lot more shocked when I give low ratings than like you guys is the thing.
Mhm.
It's because you haven't watched many films, so when you like watch like a big film and you give it like a low rating, it like really upsets a lot of people.
No, it's
Just in general, he just doesn't give a lot of low ratings, I think.
Yeah, I'm a lot more kind. Like,
I guess so.
I'm a lot more kinder to stuff, I think, overall. So, like,
Yeah.
whenever I do give something, like, a really low rating, especially, like, fucking 3, 2s, and 1s, you know? It's, like, has a lot more effect, I feel. Like,
I get that. No, I get it.
Mm.
Like, that's something I've heard all the time, where it's really funny to think about in that sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Shit. Yeah.
There we go. That was that we did all 3 of those
We did all
movies,
3
and that
of
was
them.
way quicker than I thought it was going to
Me
be.
too.
It
Fuck.
felt quicker. It felt really quick. You know, it felt quick.
Yeah.
But, like, it probably was, like, a pretty long recording already.
Yeah,
With all
this
3
is
of them.
almost 3 hours now.
Ooh.
And there was like 10 minutes of yap early on, so it's like, what, 2 hours and 40? That's surprisingly
Yeah.
short for this podcast. That is not right.
Oh.
That is not right. This is wrong. This is a...
Well, that was time for the rambling hour.
No, everything feels like everything's been in reverse. I thought I was gonna, like... nothing today about any of these topics made any sense to my predictions.
Yeah, and I've already pretty much talked to you two quite a bit in like the last 2 days. I don't know if there's much to ramble about.
Yeah.
Because originally the substance was going to be part of the ramble hour, but now it's just like a proper section all its own.
Yeah.
I feel like if we bait people with the substance is bad, it's gonna be great.
But like, you know,
We're gonna blow up on the controversy.
Yep, pretty much.
Oh, I have one thing to say. If we're not gonna have a full ramble hour, I got one thing to say.
Oh, what?
I don't know if you were there for this, Israel, but with me and Xander the other day, I was looking to see if we could try and get Haley Welch on the podcast. I wanted to see how much it would be.
That's just not gonna happen.
Hey, Crick, we're not getting the Hawk Tua girl on our podcast. That costs $20,000. We're not doing that.
I know.
She's a part of
But
Logan Paul's company. We shouldn't mess with that. So yeah.
What was that?
She's part of Logan Paul's company. We shouldn't mess with that.
Let's stay away from there then.
Yeah,
they're recovering from lunch. They're recovering from lunchly right now. So like,
I just say, you know, if we wanted to like get out there, we need like a boost is all. We needed that. We need to get Haley Welch on there. She'd add like a little spice to the podcast.
Spice?
It's not gonna happen, bro.
It's just not gonna happen, man. This is not happening. Oh shucks, this is never gonna gosh darn happen. Jeez.
Stop talking like that. You talked like that yesterday
Morty,
too.
Morty, you gotta calm down, Morty. You gotta hawk to her and spit on that thing, Morty.
I want to kill both of you. Okay, I don't even want to block you. I just want to fucking kill you.
Jeez, man. Jeez, Rick, I don't know. I mean,
the man who sold the chins.
Yeah, that's clearly me. I'm Pyro with fucking...
The man who sold the chins. Just for context, this is a clip where Pyro, because Pyro Cynical, the YouTuber, the fat furry one, it was the one where he was on stream because he was trying to release his video, but it got copyright claimed because it used a cover of The Man Who Sold the World, and then someone donated and said The Man Who Sold the Chins. And then he went on a whole like 2-minute rant on like how evil that comment was and how like demeaning and evil it was. Like, you know, man, I went through a real issue. I went through a real copyright issue, and you're making fun of me by saying The Man Who Sold the Chins. Oh my god. Oh, it's such a beautiful clip. Oh my god. Oh my god, bro. Like,
yacht. Did you say yacht? Say that again.
I said, oh my god.
Nah, just like a proper Gen Alpha.
Yeah. You know, this has been a fun time, guys. It's been. But funny thing is, what are we doing next episode? I forgot.
I don't know. I'm not allowed to pick anymore apparently. So it's.
Oh no, you are. You are. We set some certain ones. I forgot. I feel like we said something in like a couple days ago about what we were gonna do next.
You wrote some down.
Yeah, but what was it though? That's the real question.
I don't know. I forgot.
Let's
I know
look
for a
back.
fact. I know for a fact the Archer episode is still like postponed. That's never happening.
Give it 2 years.
Oh,
That's not that bad. Just 2 years.
it's quite
Well,
long.
he's gonna be like ultra unk by then, bro.
Okay, I found
Ultra.
it.
I'm. Oh, what do we have?
So the next one is Wonder. And something else.
Oh.
What's the other thing?
And something else. But also at the same time, I'm not sure that episode's fully confirmed, but we should do it. So yeah, this time for at the end of our dumps, I actually don't know what we're doing next. So watch out. Watch out, motherfuckers.
There could be anything.
Really could be. You never know.
Yeah.
We've got Christmas locked in though. Christmas is going to be a great one.
Yep. And I guess we got our horror quota done at this point.
Yeah. Well, we'll get done in like 4 days for the episode for like Halloween.
I have a little bit of a busy schedule, but I might be able to.
Yeah, you'll lock in, and
Yeah,
you'll really skip.
I just need to lock in, man.
The High School Musical video.
But you know, I don't really care because guess what's tomorrow?
What's
What?
tomorrow?
Tomorrow, as of October 27th, tomorrow on the 28th is gonna be the new Tyler the Creator album. That's really all that matters.
All right, fuck. I need to do Wolf and Cherry Bomb and Call Me If You Get Lost. Still that trilogy.
you faggot.
Kind of.
My
Hey,
lord.
hey,
Yeah.
calm down.
I said one thing and you were like, hey. Like, okay, bro.
Dude, you
Like,
can't just drop in the F slur on a public podcast like that. This isn't the 90s.
What if I said forgot? You forgot?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. Never mind.
Just
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, you might be just be an idiot, TBH.
Am I gonna get canceled? Is this what's gonna happen?
You have the excuse because you're a high schooler.
But none of you have the excuse, so maybe I can edit together
like,
I could edit
'cause I
together
don't,
voice clips
like,
to make
no.
you guys say faggot. Yeah, that works.
I don't. Well, I would never say that. That's the thing.
Israel, can you say fuck?
No, I'm not saying it
I
right now.
would, but I never used it as a genuine insult.
No. Yeah, I say faggot because you guys are my homies, you know?
It's wild.
I think it makes sense. I don't know. I don't know about you, but I think it makes sense. Anyway, by the time I drop this, the title album's gonna come out, and I'll probably put a note here saying what I thought of it, because I think it'll be funny. If I don't, then guys, are you excited for the new Kanye album? Yep.
No,
No.
I've not been excited. No.
Fuck no.
Hey, critic, can you listen to College Dropout?
I don't want to listen to Kanye West.
But he made good stuff before he turned into a Nazi, though.
I thought he was cute. I thought he wasn't a Nazi anymore because Jonah Hill made him see the light.
Well,
No.
then he reverted back.
Oh.
Bro, I can make a whole podcast of fucking Kanye. Oh
I
my
don't want to be there for that one.
I'll be there. Okay, we'll make a new podcast called the Music Dumps. You know, and then
Oh my god, that sounds like the stupidest thing I ever heard.
it'll be a spin-off podcast. Trust. It'll be between me and you, and we'll have Josh on.
It'll be the slipping Jimmy of the Xander universe, is all I'm saying.
Oh dear.
It's a great idea. Trust.
Hi chat, update, it is now November 3rd. So yeah, I'm probably gonna release the episode today or tomorrow, depending on how long it takes to upload. But yeah, I will say, Chromacopia, great fucking album, 9 out of 10. I'm even contemplating making a video on it, and also, we officially figured out what the next episode is gonna be. It's gonna be fucking Wonder and Mamma Mia. So yeah, watch those movies before the episode comes out in 2 weeks. So yeah, see y'all on the next Dumps.